So when I talked to Coach Judge the first time, he goes, so you're not big enough to throw the discus or the shot put far. You're 170 pounds. And I go, okay. Have you ever thrown a hammer? I go, man, I've never seen a hammer. He goes, okay. Have you ever thrown a javelin? I go, well, I've seen one on TV. He goes, okay, well, how far can you throw a football? I was like, never played. How fast can you throw a baseball? I go, never played. You can see this guy going, okay, give me something. I go, I can throw a rock pretty far in the lake. And he goes, that's going to have to do. and I just go, I don't know. Usually when I throw a rock, it goes pretty far. That's all I know. I don't know what that means. And then he was like, well, you're in luck. We lost our javelin thrower last year. You're the closest size to a javelin thrower. You're going to train with all the other guys, and you're going to come in Tuesday, Thursdays and learn javelin and be the javelin guy. Like, okay, tell me what to do. So like I started as a jav thrower.
My name is Derek Wolfe. I'm a Super Bowl champion and a 10-year NFL vet. Now, after a decade of professional football, I'm focusing on my other passions. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Wolfe Untamed. Today's guest is a good friend of mine, Bert Sorin. Bert is the owner of a company called Sorinex. They make strength and weightlifting equipment. They do gyms all across the country. They do all the major colleges and universities that you see. He's probably built their gyms. He's also an avid outdoorsman and a father, a husband, and just a great friend. Check this one out. I hope you enjoy it. It's pretty cool, man. I think I've taken it for granted because, you know, it's been my name my entire life, you know what I mean? But I always thought like, oh, I got a cool fucking name, you know. I never needed another nickname.
Yeah,
because your name is Wolfe. Your last name is Wolfe.
Yeah, you're gonna be like Teen Wolf, Wolfie. Like there's something.
Yeah,
going
Wolfie.
There's gonna be something with it. You're not gonna be like like Sharky or something.
Yeti or something. Sharky. No, it was. Yeah, man. It's great for like mentality wise. You know what I mean? Because you're the hunter.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
When
like
it comes
apex
to like
predator,
on the field, you know, like I don't think like, oh, I'm an apex wolf out there hunting. I'm just trying to fucking get close on an elk so I could get an arrow.
Trying to find a dumb one.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find a dumb bull that will let me shoot him. You know?
Yeah, but you don't have probably the same mentality if your last name's like Lamb. Kyle Lamb's pretty badass. Sorry, Kyle, you're pretty dope. But yeah, no, he is like, hey, like Cotton is your last name. You're like, well, that's not that hard.
There's a lot of worse names.
They're worse names. So Wolf is
for
pretty.
Sure.
You use the red. You have the like aggressive
red and black. That's my favorite color.
Red and black. Yeah, and then the aggressive font.
Yeah. Thanks.
You're a guy that should not ever not use aggressive font.
I'm an aggressive guy. It's in my nature.
Yeah.
I've been like that since I was a kid, man. I was always aggressive, you know, just like every sport that I played, I was like so aggressive that it was like, it would like other parents didn't want me playing with their kids, you know, because they were like, where's his birth certificate? And what did he weigh in at?
Were you actually giant also, or just?
I was big, but I was never like, I grew gradually. Like I never had like that crazy growth spurt. I just like grew gradually.
Sure.
Throughout, you know, my life. I was just always like explosive and
twitchy
and like I just had that like and like the lack of what do you call it, self-preservation.
That's a superpower.
Yeah. I didn't have that. Like I always saw myself as the hammer, and I just like I'm gonna run through you, you know. And I'm like a real strong believer in that, like mental, and I know this is true, this is like a fact, that, you know, mental toughness is built. Like you have to earn mental toughness. Nobody's born mentally tough, you know. Like the first time I stepped on a football field, I like rolled my ankle and like laid there and was like, ow, you know, and they were like, get up. And I was like, what do you mean get up? I'm hurt. And they're like, no, you're not. And I was like, okay. So I got up and I was oh, okay, this is what, you know, that's like one little notch. And then you just keep adding that on. And then eventually, you know, you build that mental toughness, and it's just like anything you do, right? Yeah. You could take that same mentality into anything. It could be business. It could be, you know, fucking building strength equipment, you know, it takes mental fortitude and toughness to like excel at anything, you know. If it gets hard and you quit, you're never going to excel at anything. The
game's over, right? And
I don't care if you're a fucking mathematician.
Right. And we're so egocentric when we're born, right? Like babies, they only care about themselves or kids. And so that's born into you to be egocentric. You have to be. It's like self-preservation.
Yeah.
And I would makes me wonder how and when people start developing that hammer mentality, or that, at all cost mentality, or that aggressiveness, and then mental toughness, and like, what is the catalyst to have for that to start happening?
So for me, it was just like this gradual thing as life went on. There was a lot of times when, I didn't have parents that gave a shit about me.
I was about to say, like, what was the thing that
my stepdad was super abusive. My mom was a drug addict and alcoholic. More of an alcoholic than a drug addict. She was like a casual drug user, but more of an alcoholic, but it was very abusive and very like, you didn't know what the fuck was going to happen.
Sure.
So it was I just would unleash rage on the field. So I was like, okay, I can go out here.
Right.
And like excel and get that, like that a boy.
Right.
Get the pat on the back. And that was like that's what I was chasing.
Of course. Well, I think we just kind of unpacked and answered our questions right there. Yeah. Like, where did that come from? It was, wanting to get that affirmation that, I've talked about before. Like, every man has that one question: am I good enough?
Yeah. And even in that, all that shit that happened to me as a kid, I still wasn't like, I was still so incomplete because I was like a fucking loose cannon that wasn't afraid to throw it all away.
Oh, wow.
Like, I would blow the fuck up and get in a fist fight or something stupid over like, this guy looked at me weird and now we're going to fight. Like, I was still so immature and so like, because to me, like, that's not mental toughness.
Right.
Like, that's not being able to control your anger is a weakness.
Yes.
Like a huge weakness.
Huge weakness.
And when I lived on a farm in high school.
Okay.
A family took me in. I lived on their farm, and they taught me like, because I would still be like, you know what, fuck this, and just leave.
Yeah.
And they taught me that you don't do that. And they, you know what they did? They made me wrestle. And on the wrestling mat, the only one to blame is yourself.
Right. And you're going to be put in terrible positions that you're going to lose, that you have to go, I'm going to get back up and do this again because.
Yeah. Well, because you know what they say, if one guy can hold you down, two can rape you.
They've always said that. They've always said that. I'm glad.
And that's how I took it. I looked at it. I was like, nobody's going to ever fucking hold me down again.
I've read that t-shirt.
That's like the jiu-jitsu thing that people always say. But I had a wrestling coach that used to say that to us when I was in high school.
I don't know if you can still say that.
Oh, it would be frowned upon for sure.
Frowned upon. Probably make good wrestlers though.
Yeah, it made great wrestlers. We had a really good wrestling school.
Right.
But they made me wrestle, and it taught me like mental toughness. I learned mental toughness more so on the wrestling mat. That was where I first really learned it, because football was like, it was still pretty easy. Like it would get hard, but like only for a short time. Wrestling, you get drug into that deep water and you're fucked. Like it's like 9 minutes straight of wrestling in overtime with another heavyweight that's been wrestling since he was 4 years old.
Right. There's no way around it.
There's no escaping it. Right. And you're just like, you can either go out there and hang on for dear life, or you can like suck it up and train yourself to make sure you're not tired, because you're going to get out wrestled. Because you don't have the same skill level, so you have got to be in shape, and that to get in shape for wrestling, mental toughness is all you have, because you have to just literally just outwill that guy.
Just resilience.
It's just resilience
to either survive and continue to get beaten on, or just be disciplined enough to get better to end the fight earlier.
Yeah, just try to win early, and and then if you do get drug into that deep end, you have to be able to like keep your head above water and not lose your shit, Yeah. And I learned a lot of that, living on that farm and wrestling. And then when I got to college, I had great coaches that like really pushed that into me too. They were like, you're really good, but you're only giving us like 50%. I need 100%. And it was like, okay, now at practice, instead of, okay, I'm just going to do the bare minimum, right? Are you just getting through practice? Or are you like getting better at practice? And that's when I remember that I had a coach, his name was Steve Stripling. And I remember my junior year, he was like, the great ones, he's like, you got to love practice. And I was like, Coach, nobody loves practice. He goes, He got so fucking mad at me and I was like, cause I'm like a leader, you know, I'm not supposed to be like fucking saying dumb shit. He was like, the great ones fucking do. And he was like, and if you ever want to be great, you better learn how to love practice. And I was like, whatever. And then like a couple hours later, I started thinking, I was like, man, he's probably right.
Yeah.
Cause he's coached some of the best fucking guys in the league already.
Yeah.
And he knows what he's talking about. So
right.
I was like, you know what? Now I'm going to trick my brain into thinking I love practice.
Yes.
And it worked. Yeah. I did. I loved it. Now, instead of, okay, I'm just going to make sure I'm in the picture whenever with the balls, whenever run. No, I'm going to be, I don't care if that ball's 60 yards downfield, I'm running to the ball.
Yeah.
Every play.
And then you realize you're accelerating the interest you have on your principle. Like I see the financial model of it, you're like, oh, wait, I could put this into something that makes more money faster than me. And all it is me putting extra effort in every time. Like one day I was talking to Pops, the same thing. And I was getting my stuff together after work. And I was training, trying to make an Olympic team during the time. And I said something, I go, well, I got to go train. And he goes, oh, okay. But I was kind of bummed about it. Like I had that just like shitty attitude. Like, and then
you'd rather be doing something
else.
I
got in my car and I was like, yeah, I got to go train. I got to train. And I went, hold on. I don't got to. No one's making me do this. No one's paying me to do this. No, I don't get fired if I don't do this. Like I want to go do this. I'm choosing to do this. So why is this? I got to, I get to.
Yep.
I get to if I get all my work done and it's still light outside and I could go out and I could throw a hammer in a field and I could yell and scream and spin around and be strong and explosive and do the thing that I said that I wanted to do, I get to do that. And I was like, screw the got to shit. And then I literally changed one letter, got to get, changed the O for the E.
Yeah.
And then I started saying, I get to go practice today. And then that was the reward. The reward was I get to go practice because if I get to go, I'll be better at the end of it. And I'll get to cash out at a competition and show you how much better I got. When that switched, holy crap. That was when everything accelerated. But it was the same thing. I started enjoying it. I would walk outside and go, yeah, it's still sunny. It's a warm day. Smell fresh cut grass. These hammers are really cool. I get to throw. Man, look, like I got this sweet freaking body that I feel like a racehorse. I'm like, I get to run this thing. Like I get to run this racehorse that I have.
Yeah.
Versus like, I gotta go do it today. Man, screw the got to, man.
Yeah, because we would have these days in college, you know. So we had Brian Kelly for my first 2 years.
Right.
We went to 2 BCS games and then he left and went to Notre Dame.
Right.
And then a new coach comes in and tells us that we don't know what the fuck we're doing and we're lazy and all this other shit.
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
like,
thanks.
Like, what do you mean? We literally have just been a top 10 team in the country for the last 2 years.
Y'all didn't have anybody good on that team though, did you?
Yeah, nobody. Yeah, we had no good players on that fucking team at all. Nobody that ever went on to be maybe the greatest center and the greatest tight end of all time. It's fucking crazy, you know? And so this coach comes in, he's like, we're going to squat until we can't walk. And we're going to run gassers and 110s until we can't fucking breathe. And we're going to throw up and we'll have an ambulance out there. And he wasn't lying. We did everything to failure. It didn't matter if it was a damn manual neck movement to failure. People were popping blood vessels in their eyeballs. People were like blowing their discs out on the squats because they got 500 pounds on their back and they're doing it as many times. They're just going AMRAP. Yeah. Yeah. Just as many as they can. And then you get like 3 minutes of rest and you do it again. And it was just like, we were doing like tug of war, like with the battle ropes. So we'd have one in each hand against each other and just like, you have to stand in place and whoever drops it first loses. And if you lose, you have to wear a pink jersey. So like, I like that. Yeah. And we do mat drills where we'd like wrestle each other on these mats and we did all this crazy stuff. And we had that our junior year, we had this mentality of like, this is stupid and we have to do this. Well, the next season we decided, all right, you know what? We get to go in there and compete. Yeah. We get to go do this every day. Like this is what we get to do. Yep. And we took that mentality and it changed everything for me. At least like I got, instead of like walking, cause you're not walking, you're crawling out of the gym. Yeah. And then you got to go to class. So you're like, this sucks. And instead we were like, dude, look how big my legs are. Look how badass. Like, look how swole I am right now. Like, And then it turned into like, let's like celebrate each other's like accomplishments in the weight room, right?
Yes.
Like whenever somebody does a big lift, like let's
juice it up.
Let's juice that up. And like and then it started becoming fun. I was like, it was crazy because going into our senior year, instead of like going out and partying, we would break into the weight room and do extra workouts because it was like,
I love that.
And we'd go in there and play basketball to get some extra cardio. Like,
yeah.
Because we were just like, let's just be
just freaks.
Let's do it. You know,
let's do all the stuff that no one else is doing.
Yeah. Let's just do it.
Oh, it's the best. When we would leave for Christmas and then for the summer, you know, a lot of athletes, they go home for Christmas. They're like, oh, good. I get mama's cooking. I get to do all this other stuff. I mean, we would make deals with each other. They're like, all right, we're maxing out before we leave. Like when we come back, that number better be higher. You know, it's like you got 30 days to make that number go up. And everyone, you know, other people are like, man, I'm not going to do shit. And we're like, dude,
that's why no one will remember your name.
Yeah, right. But we started looking at it mathematically. If, you know, everyone's here and then you go to Christmas and they drop and you exceed, all of a sudden you've widened that gap.
Yeah.
And then you go home for summer, and if they even stay the same, which they never do if they're not training, we widen that gap. And I go, you give me 4 years of that, you won't catch me. Like I'll blow past you. And I had to, because I was a walk-on. So I was way down here. So I had to figure out how to like compound that interest. And like, if I could pick up a month here, if I could pick up 3 months here. And I was like, hold on, that's 4 months. That's a quarter. I mean, that's over a quarter of a year.
Yeah.
And then so it's like, well, that gives me an extra year of training in my college career. If I pick up this amount of volume, I beat you by a year. I'll eventually get there. And I was like, all right, I don't have to be good today, but you better watch out when I'm a senior. This is going to be nasty.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you start getting that velocity,
compounding interest.
And then that's how we got to start seeing it. And then the guys, we had a house of us throwers as well. And, you know, we were all just, probably sounds like your house too. Like we party hard, but you train really, really hard too. Like, you know, we would be pissed at each other if a guy, hey, you got to hit 600 for 5 days in the squat. And like, you knew what his number was. I mean, we'd be sitting out 2 or 3 days beforehand. Everyone's like, oh, what's your 100%? It's like, I got to hit 6 for this. And I was like, oof, that's going to be heavy. And they're like, but we're like sitting around our house, like getting our mind right for it. And then you knew like your buddy, let's say he had to hit it for 5 and he just had a bad day, he hit it for 4. Well, now I got to hit it for 6 because we have to make up that rep somewhere. Like somebody's picking up, you know, so who's going to step up and make that rep that we needed? And man, then you don't want to be the guy that made your buddy do that. And you're like, F that. I don't want to be that guy that like made Kevin do 2 extra reps. Like, nah.
Oh, it was so much fun too. Cause we would have, I remember Jason Kelsey, he was a big squatter. He could squat so much weight, right?
Looks like he would be. And
he would be like, hey, how much you squatting today? And I'd be like, I don't know how much you squat today.
Yeah, it's always probably a chip more than you.
It was just funny because whoever went first, whoever went second had to put more weight on,
of course,
and do it the same amount of reps or one more, you know.
Yeah,
and it was they always made it like, okay, we're doing 4 to 6 reps every set today.
Yep.
So if you can't do it for 4 to 6 reps, don't put the weight on. Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah.
Well, what are you putting on? Jason's like, I don't know what we putting on. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna put 645 on. And he's like, all right, I'm putting 665 on.
Of course.
And I'm like, fuck. All right, I'll put 675 on. He's like, all right, let's see it then. And I put 675 on there and I did it for 6 reps. And he goes, all right, I'm putting 685 on. Does it for 9 reps. I mean, the explosion that motherfucker had was just, and then he would rack it. He racks it, and he's just like, he like almost passes out, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm so excited for him.
Of course, because y'all pushed each other 20, 30,
it's
40
like,
pounds
yeah,
more.
we're just like, it's like he just made a huge play on the field. You know what I mean? We're just like, you see videos of this all the time of college guys getting ready to like hit a PR and like everybody gets all jazzed up for it.
It's
like
best.
We would get like that for the long snapper who was, you know, about to bench 225.
Of course.
Like, it didn't matter. We were jazzed up for anybody that was going to hit a PR.
Yes.
You know, I mean, we were so cock strong. It was so fun because we were grabbing like, you're grabbing 200-pound dumbbells and, you know, bench and pressing them, like, and it's just like,
because effort is to be celebrated, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't care if it's the guy, like you said, the first time he benches 225, freaking send it.
Send it, man. Yeah. Let's go.
But the other side of that is, if we know you could do 225 and for some reason you did a whole bunch of dumb shit this year or this, and then you go 205, we got issues.
Yeah.
Because
if
now
you've gotten weaker.
You're disrespecting what we're all doing. Here. You're disrespecting the team.
We did that even in high school. We used to keep track of all our summer workouts.
Yep.
And, we had a pretty good strength and conditioning coach.
Sure.
Shout out to Sam Pruden. He was just an awesome guy. He just was like, we're going to squat and we're going to deadlift. We're going to bench and we're going to clean. He taught me how to clean in high school. So I had that. He taught me how to properly do an Olympic lift properly. So I didn't when I got to college, there was guys that had no idea how to do it. And it was like, well, then we couldn't go heavy and, it was
everyone has 2 greens on.
Well, because you got 110 guys on a college football team and you got one strength coach with 2 assistants.
Yeah,
you can't keep track of everybody, what they're doing. You can't have guys fucking going heavy as shit and have some guys going, 135 and doing it all wrong.
Yeah.
Because guys get hurt and then now he's in trouble, you know? So I get it, but man, it was great to know that because finally when we did start doing heavy cleans, I was like, I got to rev that engine back up and it was, I loved it, man. And we had all steel plates in high school too. So it was like,
oh, is that cool rattle?
Oh yeah. And don't drop the plates. You'll break them. So you had to take everything down controlled and
Which you look at, we used to, when we would clean from the floor, for some reason, maybe we just didn't want to reset. Maybe, I don't know why we all started doing it in South Carolina. We would come all the way down the floor and all of us strangely could stop within an inch of the floor and just turn it right back around. And I look back and I'm like, man, that was a really interesting plyometric effect that we were getting for that amortization phase, hitting the bottom and coming back without touching the ground.
Yeah.
Just back up and down. And I look back and I'm like, man, that stopping that weight is really just cutting and decelerating.
Yep.
And I look at that and I don't
think about it. When people don't realize when that weight, you got big weight on there, right? You guys got 400 pound plus on there.
Sure.
And whenever you stop that weight, it doesn't just stop.
Right. It keeps
going. So you boom, and then you have to fight against that. Yeah. And I think that aspect of training is sometimes overlooked, even when someone goes down. Louis Simmons used to say the faster you go down, the faster you come up, but that's building the amortization phase. It's doing the muscular tension on going down. And everyone who trains like that, I've found, could jump out of the building. Yeah. You see how, we did a workout today. You see how I go straight down.
Yep.
I'm going down and up, right? Because I'm not gonna waste time getting down there. I'm trying to get down and up.
Yeah. Well, especially taller guys like us, we don't like being down there too long.
Hell no. I don't want to get stuck down there.
No, I hit everything in 3rd gear, and if I don't, it ain't going. I got to park on a hill.
I'm gonna go down and come up as fast as I can. And if I get stuck halfway, probably rolling back down.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
That's it's a funny way to train, man. But I love it. I love training like that. It's just. You're pushing yourself every day. Yeah.
And you're smart to train that way because when you don't, although you're naturally gifted for it, you will lose it. And that's something I found, get away from a little bit of the explosive stuff for a while. Hey, let the body heal, this and that. And you come back, you're like, ooh, especially as you get older, I'm not 25 anymore. And then I could just kind of do this whenever I want. 45, it feels different, So I would say I'm what we were talking about earlier, keeping some of those explosive clean cycles and stuff, just even if it's 3 or 4 times a year, I think it's really,
just do a 4-week.
Yep.
Implement hang cleans into your system, into your,
right.
It doesn't have to be crazy heavy.
No. And we're probably all not DeMarcus Ware that could do
405 for 12 reps.
Did you see that video that one day he had 300 or 320 on there? And he was like, let me just see where I'm, and he went 21 reps or something like that. And then kind of push jerked the last one just cause.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. It's
in the world.
I'm telling you, dude, I watched him rack. I thought he was going to do shrugs with it.
Yeah.
I watched him take 405 off the rack and just start cleaning it for 10 reps and then racked it and then he wasn't even out of breath.
That is so dumb.
I was just like,
that is so remarkable. Humans don't, most people, it doesn't make sense even to us who know, but even those who don't, they don't understand what this,
how freaky that is.
Yeah. He walked out and hit a golf ball 500 yards.
No wraps.
12 times in a row.
No wraps, no chalk.
It's so dumb.
Nothing. He was barely warmed up.
What's the grips, the supporting grip strength to handle that velocity with that amount of weight, for that long? I would assume when he got hands on you, it was a done deal.
Oh yeah. Yeah. His hand, we would work hand fighting drills. Right. And he would hit you with his hands and it felt like a damn sledgehammer hitting you. Like he just like he'd hit you in the forearms and it would like make it'd make your hand go numb. And he's like, that's the goal, is to hit these offensive linemen in the forearm and it makes them pull their hands away next time. So then whenever they pull their hand away, you could jam one in their chest. He was such a student of the game. He would watch, DeMarcus Ware would watch tape on, he would watch the film on quarterbacks and when their heel was raised and where their hands were whenever the ball was going to be snapped. And he would time up those snaps. And that's why he would beat guys off the ball so fast, because he knew when the ball was coming out before that offensive lineman even knew.
Wow.
And that offensive lineman knows the play, knows when the snap count is, but he knows the mannerisms that the quarterback makes. And I remember he started telling me about that one day, and I was like, you said, wait, when the quarterback's hands, so when he puts them together like that, that's when the ball's coming. He's like, yeah, all this other shit is all bullshit. He's like, but when his right heel goes up and his hands go together, it's coming.
Wow.
And I'm like,
don't let that man start playing poker.
Dude,
he'd have you.
He was so good at it. And he just would time, his timing was unreal and his explosion was unreal. Like the freakiest athlete I've ever been around. I mean, and I've been around some really good ones, you know, just like Von Miller.
So it's like Kuechly, like how he would study.
Oh yeah. He just knew the offense, what was coming. And that's, you know, I tried to do that, but it's hard when you're like in the interior because you can only see so much.
Right.
So I would just pay attention to like backfield sets and then as the game would go on, that's where I'm learning because you can only see so much on film.
Yeah.
But when you're up close and personal with that dude, by the second quarter, I've got him figured out.
Oh, really?
Like I know when he's going to be pass setting, and I know when he's, you know, when he's run blocking. I know which direction. I know I'm looking at his eyes. I'm watching their eyes all the time because they're always going to look where they can't help it.
Of course.
They're always going to glance. I'm like, yep, I know where he's going. And go make the play now.
So now would you be able to take that information to the next season when you saw him again? You kind of, I know what this dude does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
But they would, you know, obviously they're going to try to change it a little bit, but
yeah,
like Phillip Rivers used the same same words for the same plays for like years. So he would like make calls and I'm like, I know exactly what play is coming.
Wow.
And then they would get frustrated. His teammates would be frustrated because like, how does he know? And I'm like, because he's telling me the play. Like he's literally telling me the play. I play him twice a year, every year.
Yeah.
I know exactly what play this is.
He never shot him an email. Hey man, stop saying that.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, you guys need to tell Phil to like change it up a little bit, you know? But no, man, he used the same. I remember Buffalo Tiger was like, it was a run to their right. And it was like it was coming through the B gap. Like it was, it was coming right to me. I'm getting double teamed. All right. So I'm going to play into the tackle because he's not expecting me to hit him first. He's thinking he's going to come down and hit me in the hip. So when I just like put my helmet under his chin, you know, he's going to be like, oh, and then I'm going to destroy the play because everybody's all like, that's not supposed to happen, you know, because they're like, he's supposed to just be here and we're supposed to double team him and then come off on a linebacker. And I mean, most people, that's probably so boring for people, but for me, it was so much fun to do stuff like that.
Well, I always like that aspect of the game, hearing about it, just understanding the mental side, because there's so many physical freaks, right?
Yeah.
In every sport. But it's like the ones that have all those aspects and then also have that weird Jedi ability to see the thing before it happens. Like,
well, it slows the game down, you know, and everything is technique, right? Like your technique is everything. It's just like throwing is so technique driven.
Sure.
Right.
It's
like
all it
you
is.
Could be it don't matter how strong you are. If you don't have any technique, you're.
Yeah. And then not only the technique, but the technique allows you to feel certain things because it's microsecond timing. It's shift of the hip to here, shift of the toe to here. I could feel the big toe grind in on this one. And then especially the hammer was so technical because everyone thinks you're like kind of pulling the hammer. The hammer, of course, for those who don't know, it's a 16-pound steel ball. It's like a shot put on a 3-foot wire. So you're trying to create centrifugal force pulling away from you. So you're speeding this thing up that you have like no ability really to speed it up because it's a flexible. So everything is a tangential force. And then you just have to make it go faster and faster, faster, but conserve all of your energy to make the tightest circle you can to make this thing whip around you as fast as possible. And then the second you break that radius, you shorten the radius, the ball slows down. So every time you want to put some stink on it, you're actually screwing it up.
Yeah.
And it's really weird because everything else you could kind of like, I want to punch harder. Well, when you punch harder, the whip slows down,
Yeah.
right? And so you have to start like really feeling what it's doing. And the best guys do the least. It's almost like a ninja samurai.
It's like a golf swing.
It's like a golf swing, right? It's a really heavy golf swing that you're stepping a lot too. But man,
well, that golf swing is like, you know, it's the easier you swing, the further the ball goes.
Because head speed.
Because if you try to like whip through the ball and try to punch the ball, it never goes
right. Because what you do, you get ahead of it. So if you get ahead of, you've changed the length of the radius.
Mm-hmm.
Now you've made that circle smaller. Head speed slows down. You're doing more work. Head speed's down. Ball gets hit. And so this weird dance you're doing with this thing, but it's also weighing 600 or 700 pounds on the end of the wire because centrifugal force is making it weigh more and more and more.
Yeah.
So you have to be strong and you have to be relaxed enough to feel what it's doing. And that's
pretty cool.
This weird dance. And it's just like, oh, it's so frustrating.
But it's addicting.
It's addicting because you hit it once, you're like, oh, it works.
Yeah.
And then you train for like a year more to get to that feeling again. And you're like, and then you smash a big throw at a big competition and then you're hooked and you're like, okay, so this magical cracking of this whip is doable.
Yeah.
I just got to unlock how I do this.
So how did you get into throwing? How was that?
Yeah, so that was kind of a weird little story. So my dad was a discus thrower in high school. So he was like the top recruited discus thrower out of New Jersey. 1968, he was state champion, and he was never intended to go to college. He was going to go into like machining or something like that, like vocational stuff. But he started throwing really far, and he didn't even really like throwing. He liked weightlifting. So he was an Olympic weightlifter, but he's 6'4" and 200 pounds back then. And so you're just good at stuff.
That's a giant back then.
That's a giant.
It's a giant now, but that's
when you could clean almost 400 pounds in high school, it's 6 feet tall. A discus goes really far. So he was at the state championship, won. All these schools are standing behind the ring. They're like, hey, do you want to go to Yale? Hey, do you want to go to Nebraska? Hey, do you want to go? And he's like, what are we talking about? And they're like, you're really good. We'll bring, and he's like, so you're going to like pay me to go to college, because no Sorin had ever been to college. And they're like, yeah. And so South Carolina came up and we're like, hey, we want you to come there. He's like, what do y'all have to do there? And they're like, oh, well, it's nice and warm and this and that. And he goes, y'all got like fish and deer to hunt and stuff like that? And he's like, yeah. They goes, all right, cool. He was like, I thought it was like summer camp. He goes, I didn't have any plan to go. He goes, I thought it'd be fun. If they're going to pay me to throw this discus, sure. And came down. And then actually when he was down there, he got down, he said, well, where's the weight room? And they go, well, weights will make you muscle bound. Because that was 1968. They weren't lifting weights. Mm-hmm. He goes, well, I don't think that's the case. And so he borrowed a car and they let him drive back up to New Jersey and bring his own weights down. And he started the first weight room at South Carolina as a freshman. And they go,
so the football team didn't have one?
No, they had a universal machine. So he said no one lifted weight. He said he found one York barbell set that was sitting outside by the track, halfway underground, that someone had just dropped it and was just sitting there. He scrubbed it off and he was like, I need more weights. And they're like, well, he goes, I'll just go get mine. They let him borrow a car, drove back to Jersey, came back, he bought wood. They gave him wood. And so he built out of wood power racks and things like that so he could train. And because he was like star recruits, they're like, whatever you want, Richie. And he was like, well, I need a place to train. But you could do it. So this was like at the Student Center at the University of South Carolina. This is like 1968, the crazy 60s, like all the riots and stuff. And he was that weirdo doing clean and jerks and stuff like by himself. And he started getting the other football players to do it too, because he was, what they would do, the Roost was the name of the athletic dorm. And they had these concrete walls, it's like a hallway. And they had nothing to do, right? So he goes, they would sit back to back in the hallway with their feet against the wall, but it wasn't wide enough where you'd have to squish up your legs, right? So they would have leg press fights. So they would basically arm wrestling. And so you would back to back. And if you press the other guy into the wall, you win. And so I don't know how they came up with it, but he said, he goes, I could beat any athlete. Most of them I could beat with one leg.
That's insane.
But no one else lifted.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, the coaches were like, wait, why could Richie jump throw out the building and he's fast and he could beat the football players, all this stuff. And then so like finally they started letting him lift weights, and then they ended up buying them a membership to the YMCA downtown. That was where they lifted. So that's how it kind of started. So anyway, so I'd been around throwing as a kid, and I knew Dad was a good discus thrower. So he got me start playing with it in a field, and I'm an only child. Dad's an only child.
How did he do in college? Like, did he?
He was good. He was good, but he didn't really have a coach. So he kind of got there, and he didn't love throwing.
He liked lifting.
And so he still lifted and everything like that. But you're the 60s, and so he was just kind of like, all right, like, I'm going to go to meets. They tell me to go to meets, I'll go and throw as hard as I can. But after that, like, I'm going to go lift weights, and I'm going to, he had a leather making business. That's how he was able to like buy hunting equipment and take my mom on dates. And he was like, man, I learned how to make all these leather bracelets. I'd sell them to all the hippies, and that's how I made money. And
That's smart.
Yeah, it was just all that. And all he wanted to do was hunt and fish and all that stuff. He got married like his sophomore or junior year or whatever, and they lived in housing, and that was that, And so he never really thought of like, oh, go to nationals, because that was not the mindset at South Carolina. It was like, hey, you're here now. You have a free ride, party, have a good time, show up to conference meets, do well. Like, okay, go. And so he was like, all right, cool. This is a fun ride. I get to do this. So anyway, he taught me that stuff early on. And then I was like I said, only child. I lived with my mom. And so we lived kind of out in the rural area. So I was hunting and fishing all the time. And I wasn't really an athlete. I never considered myself an athlete. I was told by one of my best friends, who was a big athlete, who did all the sports. He was like, oh, you're the worst athlete I've ever seen. I'm like, okay. I just believed it.
Why'd he tell you that?
Because I sucked. I didn't know how to play I wasn't good at basketball. I didn't know how to play baseball very well. Football was iffy. And so he was in all those.
Did you play football?
No. And so I didn't play like any sports growing up.
That's crazy.
Wild, right? I like hunting and fishing.
Yeah.
I was gnarly I could cast into a teacup with a bait caster.
Right.
And I'd go out on my little boat, and I would be gone all day, no shirt, no shoes. And like, that was just my little Huck Finn life. And so when all my buddies were like, we're going to practice, I'm like, stripers are running, I'm probably going to go do that.
Yeah.
Like, and because I didn't really know what to do. And when you get to a certain age, you realize that like, if you don't know how to do it yet, you're not in the system. So the coaches don't care anything about you. You already kind of don't know all the plays. You kind of just don't know the stuff. And so like, pride kind of makes you go, well, I'm not going to go do something I don't know what I'm doing. And my best friend tells me I'm terrible at it. So that's what he does. He's an athlete. I'm a outdoors guy.
Yeah.
So I just did my thing.
I'm a woodsman.
I'm a woodsman. I just did my thing. Right. And so like my junior year or my sophomore year, I was like, well, I'm sorry. I wrestled my freshman year. I enjoyed it, but then I started lifting weights at the same time. And the wrestling coach wanted me to lose weight.
Oh yeah.
And then my dad was like, you need to gain weight to lift. And I was like, run a whole bunch. I'm already too skinny, and you want me to lose weight, but I could lift 5 days a week with pops, and I gain weight and get strong. I'll just do this.
Yeah.
So I did that. And then I was going to try track and field my, sophomore year, broke my leg snowboarding. So that was that. and then, so my first year as an athlete, it was a junior in high school. So I got to there, I started discus throwing because Pops had shown me how. We didn't have a coach. The first day I show up on a track team. They're like, what do you do? I was like, I think I do shot and discus. They go, okay, you're the coach. It's my first day. Like, and I show them that I could throw, and they're like, oh, you're good at it. Teach the other kids. I'm like, okay. So I'm like zero coaching at that point. I'm just like a 15-year-old kid telling other knuckleheads what to do. Right. But it was pretty cool because Pops was telling me like strength conditioning stuff. So I was able to like actually coach kids when I was a kid.
So was he running, did he already start Sorinex?
Oh yeah. He started in 1980. So this would have been like 93, 94.
Okay.
So he was, so I was in that world watching, and we'd have people come to the gym and training to break world records. So I was like into the lifting aspect of it. So anyway, I was just doing my thing. So senior year, kind of same thing. Nothing really, not very good. Don't make state championships. I was undersized. I was 172 pounds in high school, basically at my height now. And I was just a late bloomer. So it's like, and I didn't believe that I could be an athlete. I didn't identify myself as an athlete. So I go to South Carolina as just going to be a student. I was like, I'm just going to go. I'm going to party. I watched all the 80s movies. That's what college looks like. it's going to be like Revenge of the Nerds. It's going to be great. I was like, this is going to be awesome. I'm going to party my ass off. Maybe I'll lift some weights because I like doing it. I'll hunt, I'll fish, like move on as life is normal. So I got to school, was there for 6 days and just drank my face off and partied. I'm 17 years old. I'm having the best time ever. Right. And then, so finally I was like, all right, man, I need to get a lift in. So I called Dad and I was like, hey, I want to work out. I said, but the student center, the gym is terrible. I said, we put the weight room in at South Carolina, like football, right? And he goes, yeah, there's stuff's down there. I said, are you friends with the guy down there? He goes, yeah, I could make a call, see if you could train down there. I was like, oh, cool. So he calls, Rock Oliver, the coach, said, my son would like to come down and get a workout. Are you cool if he comes down? It's like, yeah, tell him to come down after the athletes are done. Cool. Great. This very much shows the 90s because you could pull shit off like this, And so he told me to come out after the athletes. I'm 17. I'm halfway listening to what my dad is saying. So I just get done lunch and I'm just like, I'm going to go lift. So I show up at the stadium, same stadium that they filmed the program in the year before.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was pretty badass. So you got the place there, right? So the platform that Latimer was on that was like smashing the weight, that was actually the first platform I stepped onto when I got to South Carolina.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it was cool. Because I was actually at the game where they filmed it. Because I was in high school. We were tailgating. I was drunk as shit at the game. So I walk in and I see the platform, like, oh, that's dope. I walk over and like, no one's looking. And I just walk into a weight room. But the first week of school, there's all these new kids there. And like, they didn't make us wear like all South Carolina gear back then. So you kind of like, everyone's dressed whatever they're wearing and no one knows anyone. And all the sports were in one weight room. So no one really had any real jurisdiction of who the hell anyone was. So I just walked in and looked around and laid my gym bag down and loaded up some plates and started cleaning. Like, that's kind of fun. And I was just cleaning. No one said anything to me. I was like, okay. And I see there's some kids are lined up and they're doing vertical jumps. I was like, that looks cool. Because, I'm a 80s kid, watch Rocky IV a lot. And I was like, diagnostics. I never got that kind of stuff because our coach did nothing for us in high school. So I never knew anything. I didn't even lift in high school. I lifted at the gym. And walked in. I said, shit, I'll stand in line. I stood in line. A bunch of guys. We get up. They measure me 8 feet. Boom. Tap 29.5 inches. And they're like, yeah, that's pretty good. And I was like, cool. I'll walk off. They gave me a sheet of paper. And then I wrote my name on it. I was like, put it in my pocket. I was like, thanks for the card. I walk back over, keep cleaning. And I walk over. I start bench pressing. Benching. I'm not very strong. And then I see they have this other line that's outside of this little office. And I'm like, that looks cool. They're doing body fat testing. I'm like, that looks dope. Stand in line. It was like Forrest Gump. I'm like, I stood in line, And I'm standing there. And we get up to the dude who's sitting there with his calipers. And so I'm like, I better bring this little card so like kind of look official. Because I thought it was like you get to ride all the rides, right? I'm just like, this is cool. Like if you're going to be giving out full cool diagnostics, I'll get tested. What the heck? So I hand him my card and pull up my shirt and everything. And he goes, all right, what's your sport? And I go, oh shit. I was like, track and field, because I knew enough I could bullshit track and field.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't played any other sport. And he goes, oh, what event? And I was like, shot and discus. And he goes, oh. And I said, I wasn't very good. I said, but I was going to maybe walk on in the spring, which was totally bullshit.
Yeah.
I just said it so the guy would stop talking to me.
Yeah.
Right. He goes, well, how far did you throw? And I go, well, 44 feet and 132. And he goes, well, that's not very good. And I kind of got pissed. I was like, well, I already said I wasn't very good. Like, I don't need you rubbing it in, like I know it's not very good. And he goes, as he's doing the test and he's like, all right, you're 7.5% body fat. I was like, okay, I don't know what that means. He goes, practice starts tomorrow. And I go, I'm sorry. He goes, my name's Larry Judge. I'm the throws coach at South Carolina. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what are the chances the one dude in this entire city that I can't lie to was the guy?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I'm throws coach here. I'm like, son of a bitch. In my mind, I'm like, no way. And I was like, all right, coach. Yeah, cool. He goes, all right, practice starts tomorrow at 2:00. And I go, well, it's a spring sport, isn't it? Because this is in August. He goes, son, you're in college now. It's full time. I go, all right, coach, I'll try to make it. Again, totally bullshit. He goes, no, if you're going to be the team tomorrow, you will make it. And I go, all right. And I just turned and I walked and I kind of finished my workout and went back to my dorm room. And I called Pops. He goes, how'd your workout go? I go, I think I joined the track team. And he goes, what? And got to take into account, like, he was like one of the greats ever to come on that team.
Yeah.
So like, he's like, whoa, what are you talking? Like, it would be like your son if he didn't play football one day. He was like, hey, Dad, I'm playing for Cincinnati now. You're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like you don't do this, you know? And so Pop's like, and then he kind of sees like, you don't have to try to do this for, like, he was mind blown. He didn't know what to think. And I go, he goes, what are you going to do? I go, I'll probably just show up tomorrow. And he goes, all right, well, have fun with that. Like, right. This is gonna be great. Like, he knew I wasn't very good.
Yeah.
So I showed up, and the first day we showed up at the Williams-Brice Stadium, and he was like, all right, 2 laps around the stadium, around the parking lot. Like, that was our warm up. And I'm just like running, like, I don't know all these people, like these monster humans, like, right? They're all recruited dudes. And these 2 guys, these are the 2 biggest people I'd ever been around. And I'm like, man, you guys must be seniors. And they're like, no, we're freshmen. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm screwed. And so they were all like, well, I won the Ohio State championship. Oh, I won junior nationals. Another guy was like, well, I won the New Jersey State championship. I'm like, oh my gosh, what'd you do? I was like, I didn't do none of that. And I'm like, okay. And so we got done with that. And that was like a Thursday. And then Friday, Friday we trained, we did some BS. And then, that weekend, those guys were like, hey, we're going to tailgate for the game. You want to come on, go with us. And I was like, yeah, this is my hometown. Like, I know, I'll show you all the good spots and everything. So I went and basically partied with them all weekend. And I got done with the weekend. I was like, I like those dudes. I want to hang with those dudes. And I was like, oh, fuck it. I'll show up on Monday. And then I showed up on Monday, and then I showed up the next Monday, and I showed up the next Monday. And then at first they were like, okay, you're basically Rudy, because the movie Rudy had come out a couple years before.
Yeah.
And so they'd make me go get the water. Like, seriously, they're like, hey, do you have a car? And I'm like, yeah. And so coach was like, all right, cool. So I need you to run by the training room and pick up our water, because we train in a gravel parking lot. She's like, pick up our water, and hey, so all the girl throwers we had were all really good. A couple made Olympic teams, but none of them had cars. So they're like, well, Bert, you go pick up all the girls at their dorm rooms and bring them out to practice. We practice off campus. I'm like, yeah, sure. So I did that for like a year. And it was like, I was the guy that got the water, brought back the water, picked up all the girls, dropped all the girls off, like did all the shit work. Like, I was like a free manager kind of thing. And they just all like thought it was hilarious that they were getting this free work out of the skinny local kid.
Yeah.
But like the first time we would do these 4-week, like little microcycles in the weight room. And every 4 weeks, I would just get way stronger and way stronger and and then I got addicted to, if I put in a ton of work, I get way stronger. And I think I told you about, like, the one day I stood up in my dorm room, and I was standing on a chair, and I looked in the mirror, and I saw my legs and my ass. It was in my underwear. I was like, whose legs are those? Because I hadn't seen what I looked like, and I'd gained 27 pounds in 3 months.
Yeah.
And still I was only like 9% body fat. So I'd put on a ton of muscle, and it was like, oh, everything I've always looked up to and wanted to be, I'm becoming right now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, I'm an athlete, kind of. And it was just like, wait, I've always thought athletes were cool, but I never saw myself as an athlete, because I was told I wasn't an athlete. But then when I'm everyone on my, I didn't realize that, like, South Carolina track and field was like really, especially the throwers, we were like one of the top teams in the nation. So I inadvertently walked on to like all the dogs, and I just didn't know any better. So the girl I'm training with made 3 Olympic teams. The other girl made 2 Olympic teams. My roommate made 3 Olympic teams. So I just thought that's what you do.
Yeah.
And so I would just, my coach, when I got there, I said, okay, what do you want me to lift? And he would and he goes, you go train with Dawn and Lisa. And I go, okay. He goes, you have to train with the girls until you're stronger than all of them. I'm like, okay. And so I squatted 365 for 5 reps, and I beat Lisa by 5 pounds. And that was like me graduating off the girl rack to get to train with the guys, but I was fine with it. I was like, well, you're right. Those guys are really strong. Like, but when I started, we all moved in together, and I started living with them, and I started kind of unraveling. It demystified excellence for me.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a second. I'm doing all the same stuff these guys are doing. They're not superhuman. They're just a couple years ahead of me. And if I do the things like I said, if I don't take off Christmas, if I don't take off the summer, I could catch them. And if I could just put as much effort or more into every day, I'll pick up a 0.5%.
Mm-hmm.
And I could eventually be one of these guys. I was eating dinner with one day, and I was asking him, I was all excited about our inter squad meet. And he goes, that doesn't matter. I go, well, what matters? I go, it's a meet, right? He goes, it doesn't matter. He goes, all that matters is conference championships and NCAAs. I go, what's NCAAs? He goes, the National Collegiate Athletics Association Championships. I go, okay. And I go, what was conference? He goes, like the SEC Conference Championship. I go, what's the SEC? He goes, Southeastern Conference. You're in it. I go, okay. Like, I wasn't following sports.
Right.
I wasn't doing it. I was a fisherman. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, okay, so I have to be good those times. He goes, all those are only 4 meets that matter. Indoors, outdoors, those 4 meets. He goes, everything else is bullshit. I go, okay. And I go, what happens when you do good at that NCAA thing? He goes, you become an All-American. I go, wow. Do you know any of those? He goes, yeah, I'm a 2-time All-American. I'm like, okay, that's the goal. Like, I want to be one of those. So I go, all right, Brett Murray, I'm going to do everything that you do, and I'm going to do it more. And eventually one day I'll be one of you. And I graduated, fast forward 4 years later, 4-time All-American. I broke the SEC record on my last throw, and I became team captain.
Fuck yeah.
And so,
Dude, that is such a fucking cool story.
But it was, thank you, first of all. But it was like, it showed me that all that was between it was a shit ton of hard effort, strategy, resilience, and that framework mapped my entire life. Because I said, in 5 years, I went from the guy that brought the water that had never seen an event to the guy that was making the Olympic trials and broke a record that was held by an Olympian at the SEC championships. And then I was like, oh, so everything's possible.
Yeah.
Everything's possible, because statistically,
limits are set in your own mind.
Yeah. Cause I was like, oh, statistically, none of that shit should have happened, but I didn't know it at the time. I was too dumb to know that. Like, walk-ons don't do that, Well,
but that goes back to your friend telling you that you weren't athletic.
Exactly. Cause I just believed it.
So you're like, oh, okay, I'm not athletic.
Yes, I'm not athletic.
But that's like every, you know how many people probably told Elon Musk he was a moron?
Of course.
And now he's the richest man on the planet.
Exactly.
And he's saving our country.
Saving our country, right?
and
they told him he was the weird kid probably in high school that'll never blah, 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 whatever. And it was just like, it was so addictive, because every 4 weeks I was considerably better than I was 4 weeks before.
When did they put you on? Did they put you on scholarship? Obviously?
Eventually, yeah.
How long did that take?
Well, I heard through the grapevine, they're like, well, if you score at conference, if you score at the SECs, you get money. If you make it to the NCAAs, you get a full ride. That was always in my mind. I'm like, okay, that's what I got to do. I scored 8 out of 8 SECs that I went to, and I went to 3, I think, or 4 5 NCAA championships. Never was full ride.
Never.
No.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was another lesson. So when I made my first NCAAs, I went in there for my exit interview for the year with our coach and my head coach. And I said, okay, coach, I did all the stuff. I broke all the odds. I trained my ass off. I pissed blood. I shit blood. I did all the things. I begged, borrowed, and stole. I mean, dude, I realized, I was like, all right, I have to throw further. To throw further, I have to weigh more because I could be stronger. Okay, I got to get more calories. So what do I need to do? And I was on a 10 meal a week plan, which you can't gain weight on. So I'm like, all right, what do I do? And I didn't have any money. Pops didn't have any money. Mom didn't have any money. So I'm like, okay. So I would go free stuff, and I'd go to every fast food restaurant when they closed, and I pretty good salesman. So I would go in there and I would sweet talk the ladies behind the desk, behind the counter. And if McDonald's on Rosewood closed at 11 o'clock, I'd be there like 10:53. And I knew if I sweet talked them enough, they'd give me all the burgers before they threw them away. Or all the fries or whatever it would be. And I would just, come on, you could just, kind of, and they're like, all right, come here, sweetie. And they'd hand it, and I'd go home and I'd smash an extra 2,000 calories.
Yeah.
And I would just gain weight. And, or I would go to the training hall where all the athletes got to train, was all you could eat, the best food. And I didn't have the money to get in there. But the trainer who I would go and pick all the water and ice from, he was the guy on Kurt Bosson on those like Tuesday and Thursday night. He was the guy that would run the desk. So, and he knew my situation, and he knew like I'd be in tears. Like I have to throw far because I have to make this team. And so I'd walk through, he'd see me right when they took everyone's card. He'd bend down and tie his shoe. I'd walk through. He would very intentionally, we never talked about it, but I would always get in.
Yeah.
And I would eat, I would gorge myself and like I would take, it was like, you know how it is, as much as you could pot till you're about to puke and you're like, I could eat one more patty melt. I could do it. And then you have a leg day like we had today, and you do that, and all of a sudden you're putting on weight, like bam, bam, bam. Like I got in, like my squat was 320 pounds the day I showed up to South Carolina. And that year I went 445 for 5 at the end of the year and gained 30 pounds of muscle. So it was like, okay, this is working.
Yeah.
You know, everything I thought was cool and strong, I'm becoming that guy.
Hey guys, I want to talk to you about one of my favorite sponsors, Juniper Mountain Coffee. Coffee without compromise. You're getting high quality coffee without the high prices. This is an American company that stands behind their values. They stand behind their coffee. These guys make some of the best coffee I've ever had. It's a coffee I drink every morning. Juniper Mountain Coffee works directly with the farmers, paying fair wages, and that way you have no middleman. There's no BS, no garbage. You're getting high quality products. So go check them out at junipermountaincoffee.com. So wait, this whole time that you're at school and doing all this stuff, are you still hunting and fishing?
Not as much, unfortunately.
I know it sucks.
It sucks. It sucks. And that was like, oh man, because our coach was
the sacrifice that you make.
Right, exactly. And we would very little, but so anyway, I was in my exit interview and I was telling him, I did all the things, like, you know, I begged, borrowed, and stole to like get here, you know? And he goes, I'm sorry. He goes, Coach Fry, he's a legendary Olympic coach. He goes, we're very throws heavy, top heavy in the throws. We have to bring some sprinters into South Carolina. If we ever want a shot at the national championship, we can't just be a throw school. He goes, we got to bring sprinters in. He goes, we got the best guy, high school athlete of the year, track and field. He's coming here next year. And I needed to give him that money. And I was furious.
Oh, I bet you're pissed.
And I'm like, I've given my everything for 3 years here for free. Or, you know, you said I had to score at conference. I went to conference and I scored. You said I had to do this. I did everything. You got me for free. I've done everything. And he goes, listen, man, I understand you're frustrated, but this person will put our program further along. And I go, whatever. Anyway, this kid shows up, you know, and I'm butthurt, right? And so I go off all summer. I'm trained, just pissed off, you know, like I'm going to show up and I'm going to blow everybody up. Like they're going to know what's up. This kid shows up on campus from Decatur, Georgia. His name's Terrence Trammell. I'm like, I don't give a shit about this Terrence guy. This guy took my money. Yeah. You know, and we go to Virginia Tech. And I threw a PR that day. I think a like field house record, like, oh man, like I'm the guy. I told you, coach, like, you know, like this is whatever. And this true freshman walks on the track, and his first race, he leads the entire NCAA. First race on the track. And I went, oh, there's levels to this. Yeah. And I looked over at coach. I go, money well spent. Yeah. You know, but that was the lesson of like, hey man, as good as you think you are, and whatever your path was, and all the bullshit you had to crawl over to get there, some people are just better. Yeah. And they're worth more. And you got to take that pill and realize that your story has jack shit to do with the true value of this. That guy was super, super gifted, and he worked real hard. And he eventually won the NCAAs a bunch of times, brought other sprinters to our school. We became a sprint school. I was a part of the highest team that ever ranked at nationals. And he went on to win 2 Olympic medals. And I'm like, you got the right guy. Yeah. That was, but I had to eat that.
Yeah. You have to eat that. And it sucks. Yeah. To have to eat that, you know?
It's fun. I actually told that in like 2008, the track team asked Terrence and I became friends, asked me to come back and give a speech. And I gave him that speech, and Terrence is sitting there, and I sit down. He goes, holy shit, dog. I never knew that. He's like, sorry, man. And I was like, nah, it's how it is. Yeah. It's like, you're in the Hall of Fame, man. So,
well, you should be too, though.
From what I've heard, I've been nominated this year, so it's going through the process
it happens
right
for you.
now.
You deserve it.
No, I don't know.
I mean, it's a great, yeah, you do, man. It's a great fucking story. Like to walk on somewhere. So I don't know, when I was in college, the walk-ons, like they couldn't, that meal stuff you're talking about, we used to call that training table.
Training table. That's what we call it too. Yeah.
Our walk-ons weren't allowed to come in there and eat. And I always felt so shitty for those guys. I'm like, these fucking guys are paying for school.
Yeah. And they're the
paying
ones
to
that
be
probably
here.
need it the most to catch up.
That's what I'm saying. And I was like, and you're not going to fucking feed them?
Yeah.
We used to take plates out to them.
Exactly. And all my buddies that I lived with, they're all scholarship guys. I'd be like, hey, man, hey, if you could go in there today, I'd give them Tupperware. I'm like, hey, man, bring me some stuff out. Like, just smash as much calories as you can into it. And so, yeah, all the dudes, it was cool because, like, the trainers, even, you know, some of the coaches, the other teammates, like, I kind of became like a little bit of like they all wanted to see me succeed because I was just trying really, really, really hard. So it was cool. Like my senior year, they voted for team captains, and my other roommate, Brad Snyder, who was one of the freakiest athletes, you know, I think he won like 8 out of 8 conference championships, blah, blah, you know, multiple nationals, you know, the whole deal. Right. And, the coaches and the team both voted, and, basically we ended up co-team captains, and they're like, even the coaches were telling me, they're like, it only makes sense for Brad to be the team captain, but everyone voted for you. I was like, well, that's kind of cool. Like, and so me and one of my best friends got to be kind of like, he was like, I mean, everyone looked up to him, and he was a super stud, whatever, but it was like a little bit like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, maybe I made a difference.
Yeah. Well,
and,
it's inspiring as fuck to have, you know, to hear that story is an awesome story.
It's
like,
crazy.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Like I knew you were a thrower and everything. I didn't know that you were walked on and you had no fucking clue what you were doing.
Zero clue.
Like that's such a good story.
Well, thank you. But yeah, so when I talked to Coach Judge the first time, he goes, so we're throwing and everything. And he goes, so you're not big enough to throw the discus or the shot put far. You're 170 pounds. And I go, okay. He goes, have you ever thrown a hammer? I go, man, I've never seen a hammer. He goes, okay. Have you ever thrown a javelin? I go, well, I've seen one on TV. He goes, okay, well, how far can you throw a football? I was like, never played. He goes, how fast can you throw a baseball? I go, never played. He was just like, you can see this guy going, okay, give me something. I go, I can throw a rock pretty far in the lake. And he goes, that's going to have to do. And I just go, I don't know. Usually when I throw a rock, it goes pretty far. That's all I know. I don't know what that means. And then he was like, well, you're in luck. We lost our javelin thrower last year. You're the closest size to a javelin thrower. So you're going to train with all the other guys, and you're going to come in Tuesday, Thursdays and learn javelin and be the javelin guy. Like, okay, tell me what to do. So like I started as a jav thrower, and like won my first inter squad meet. So like I won the javelin because I beat everyone else on the team who didn't throw the javelin. But it was that little bit of confidence. I'm like, oh, like even the All-American guy, I beat him in this event. So it means I'm kind of the best at this, kind of.
Yeah.
But I'd never been the best at anything ever. And so I'm like, oh, okay. And it was awesome. And
a little bit of confidence is a really good feeling. Yeah.
It's all it was, right? And so I look and like, just those little micro drips of like, it's going to be really hard, but when you break through, you get to the other end, that builds confidence. And then, but it was a 5-year process of that. And of course they redshirted me in the first year, which is great. I needed it.
Yeah.
And then I get done with college and I'm like, all right. And my coach is like, well, the Olympic trials are next year. You're throwing far enough. You should probably go do it. And I go, okay. So then I went on that journey
Where did you train for that?
In a gravel parking lot. Or behind Sorinex. So I was working 50 or 60 hours a week at Sorinex, and then at 5 or 5:30, I would become a professional athlete.
What would those work days look like?
They sucked. They sucked because you get there early. You know, you're designing equipment, you're selling, you're working it was only Dad and I. Yeah. So, I mean, you're doing all that crap. And then, you know, like I would compete because I didn't have the budget to be going everywhere to compete, but you couldn't compete at home all the time. So I would say like, okay, I sold Ohio State 10 power racks, and I knew they were going to need their install within March. Well, then I'd look and find when a meet, and like, Ohio State has a meet on March 8th. Okay. Well, then I'd work it through the schedule where I could install their power racks on March 7th. So I could use the money for the install to drive up. And so I would load all the power racks in a trailer. I'd drive through the mountains and get up to Ohio State. I'd pay one of my other buddies cash to help me unload it. And then he and I would go compete, and we'd split a hotel room, and then we'd go compete in the meet the next day. And like, that was my career. Like, and I look and I'm like, well, if you're really, really trying to be good, you could probably do it a little differently than that. It's probably not optimal.
I was going to say, it doesn't sound like you're optimizing.
I worked 14 hours yesterday after a 10-hour drive in the snow, but yeah, no, I'll be super fresh tomorrow.
Yeah, had some Carl's Jr. on the way.
Carl's Jr. on the way. Yeah, exactly. And you get done competing, and then all the other throwers want to go out, and you're like, yeah, let's go out for happy hour. And then, you burn it back home on Sunday afternoon, and you do it again. You train, during you get off work, and you go and throw for 2 hours, and you go and lift for 2 hours. You get home at 9:00 that night, and you just do it. And I mean, I threw by myself in a field for 5 years.
Wow.
Just by myself.
And when you tried out for the trials, like, how did that go?
Well, so my first trials, I missed finals by a centimeter.
Oh,
yeah. Not optimal. Yeah. But
that feeling probably fucking sucked.
Yeah.
I know what it's like to just miss.
Yeah. I was in Sacramento and I mean, but it's all the other stresses, right? You're like, you and your dad are running a business. It's super stressful, and you're installing all the time. You're doing the labor and everything. And then you're supposed to switch gears.
Was your dad making all the equipment?
We were not making it at the time, like ourselves anymore. I mean, we had one manufacturer making it, and then we were in the facility with our other manufacturer making it.
Okay.
So we were in it and around it all the time. So, sometimes you're supposed to train that day and you'd be in the shop, and, sometimes we're drilling stuff, grinding stuff. And then you look up at 7:30 that night and you're like, well, guess I don't get to train today. Okay. And then maybe you walk in the gym and try to do 5 sets of squats real fast before you go to home, because it's better than not.
Yeah.
And so that was like the training. Right. And so the first time, winning the trials, I'd already torn up my knee a bit, and I was kind of limping coming into the meet and missed.
Oh, you mean because you were fucking working all day and then going and doing 5 sets of heavy squats and then
sure worked great.
You mean your knee was sore?
Hindsight's 2020. So anyway, I missed finals by a centimeter, and
that sucks, man.
It sucked. And then but you tell yourself, you're like, hey, 2004, it's gonna be Athens, Greece. Like, let's go. But then you realize you're signing up for 4 more years, a college career of no one gives a shit for the next 4 years. And you're like, I'm going to sit out in a field by myself and coach myself with a video camera. And then I'm going to go home and I'm going to plug it into my TV and I'm going to watch it. And I'm going to write down all the things I need to work on. And then tomorrow when I go to train, I'm going to try to do it again. And then I'm going to lift weights and I'm going to try to get stronger. And I'm also going to try to keep my business going and open, because those were super hard years. And I'm going to do that for another 4 years. And
what would you say the hardest part about those years? Like, as far as, was it the selling? Was it the...
Oh, it was just
because you're building a brand.
You're building a brand, and you can't prioritize that many things. Like, you can't be a pro athlete or attempted to be a pro athlete. Like, all my friends that did make the Olympic team, they weren't doing any of that shit.
No, they were training.
They were training, and their coach was with them, and they had someone to bounce it off of, and the ideas, and the
meal plans, and
all that
nutrition.
Stuff. Yeah, and I was just like, well, I'm going to go home and eat as much deer meat as I can. And then I'm like, yeah, but I got to drive to wherever tomorrow to go visit sales thing, and I got to go up to Duke tomorrow, try to win their room. All right, well, I'll go up there and I'll train while I'm up there, because I got to train tomorrow anyway. But you know what? That really helped me build the brand, because I was training as an athlete at the time. So every sales call I was making, I just realized, well, I'm going to be in a weight room. I might as well, I'd do a call, or sometimes I would even call it a sales call. I would just show up and go, hey, do you mind if I train? I'm in town. And every coach is not going to be a dick. They're going to be like, oh yeah, you get in there.
Yeah.
Well, then you move in some real weight, you show what you're doing. And I had a couple of the coaches go, no other sales guys ever walked in here and squatted 500 pounds.
Yeah.
And I go, oh, I wasn't showing off. I just had to today.
And like, oh, so you know what the fuck you're talking about.
And so that built the brand. Everyone knew what my dad had done.
Oh, that's cool.
But they saw me doing it in real time.
Yeah.
And then so my customer base started becoming fans of me and my sport. And so they wanted to see me win, because they're like, wait, where? I said, well, I got to throw this weekend over here. Like, I'm at Duke. And they go, well, should I walk you out there and watch you? That sounds cool. And then they're like, oh, and then I would start hearing from our customers, like, you're the only guys that actually train.
Yeah.
you know, and then that was like, oh, I'm building a brand unknowingly that like we're the guys who actually train and not just work out bro sesh. It's like you're actually trying to go be a world-class athlete.
Yeah.
And then we would have great conversations. We would be talking about cutting edge stuff because what I started doing, I was getting to see behind all the curtains of I would talk shop with everyone and the better European coaches and the Canadian coaches and the so-and-so athletes. So I was getting the information from everyone because I was digging, trying to find my success. I was trying to flip over every rock possible to how do I get on an Olympic team.
Well, when you get to talk to those kind of strength coaches and and those guys, the knowledge that gets spewed at you probably is just like overwhelming.
Overwhelming. And what I realized was as long as someone knew a whole bunch, I would take them out to dinner wherever they wanted to go. I give them all the drinks they wanted, and I would just pick their brain. So that was, I look at a big part of my training advantage, but also business advantage. Unknowingly, it was huge because I was the only guy in the industry doing it.
Yeah, you probably didn't even think about it.
I didn't even think about it.
You're
Now,
just like, I'm just trying to get a workout.
A couple years in, I started seeing like, and I'd hear what people would say. And like, you know, people would cite us when they were at their like the national conventions talking, hey, blah, 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 Bert came by. And by the way, if you're ever watching, those guys really actually know what they're doing training wise. And if you ever get a chance for them to come by your place, you really, you know, I was like, oh, we're building a brand of the guys who really know what's going on.
Yeah.
And so that, you know, of course I'm not stupid. I understood how that worked. So that was kind of like the proving ground of those early days, that built the base. And then when we started hiring other people with us, I would just hire athletes, the guys that I'd competed against. So I knew their competitiveness. I knew their tenacity. I knew their resilience. I knew if they're a good dude to be around. And it's like, hey, so the first outside guy I hire is Dan McKim, 4-time world champion in the Highland Games. And he's a great guy. And then Aaron Osmus, national champion and a legendary strength coach. And so like we all kind of came from that same nest. Well, they're all the guys I competed against. So we all had mutual respect. And then we built the brand very quickly of these are young guys that all of them know how to train. They're not only a resource for equipment, they're a resource of like a wealth of knowledge. And it's not that we're that smart. I just get to talk to everybody. I got to talk to everybody. Like I would go up and hang out with Louis Simmons. I'd go over here and hang out with so-and-so. And I got to see behind every curtain.
All right, guys, I want to talk to you about a product that I've been using for a long time, over a decade. When I was playing football, one of my main staples in my diet was bison. I got my bison from Great Range Premium Bison. They make some of the finest cuts of bison you can get. These guys have ribeyes, ground bison, all the steaks that you want. My favorite part about Great Range is that you don't have to worry about antibiotics or growth hormones in their meats. Great Range Premium Bison is a family-owned company providing bison meat from family-owned ranches around the country. So please go check out greatrangebison.com. So you're making racks, benches, you know, like because the power, you guys kind of like were the first ones to put that like whole power rack all in one that I saw.
Yeah.
At that age. Cause in like 2003, I was like, you know, that's when I first started lifting.
Yeah.
I remember seeing like a Sorinex rack and I was like, dude, that thing's fucking, that thing is sweet. And I had a buddy that was at Duke.
Sure.
And he sent me a picture of it he showed me a picture of it.
Badass racks.
And I was like, dude,
those racks
unbelievable.
Were 2002 and they still had an auto spot feature that the rack shifted out and handed you the weight. And then counting lever and fell back into place. That was cool.
And that was the difference. You know, it's like,
we had guys that trained.
Yeah.
But I got some of the ideas from Al Miller, who was at the Falcons, a legendary strength coach. I got some ideas from Johnny Parker, who was the Tampa Bay Bucks and won a lot of Super Bowls. And then, so, you know, I'm talking to the guys that trained with Anatoly Bondarchuk that ran the whole Russian system. And so I was taking all these parts and pieces in and going, wait a second, where's the white space in the strength industry and where are people missing it? And that was the biggest thing for me, because had I not been an athlete, that's why I always laugh, like, hammer throwing pays nothing, but I made millions off of being a hammer thrower.
Yeah. Because
it caused me to have to learn to train and have to learn to like, how does this work? And like, we were never given anything.
It's almost like it's part of God's plan. You know what I mean?
Right.
You had to you had to do those things, and because in life, you know, you're always like, man, why did I have to go? Why does this suck so bad?
Right. Why,
you know?
Why was there no advocate there trying to like, and it's like, oh no, you have to go dig and dig and dig and dig and dig. And the thing is, it's like, and guess what? You're not going to find the gold, but when you get done digging, you'll realize you're really strong now.
Yeah.
And then you're going to go do something with that strength. And that was the reward, you know? And that's what I started realizing, like, oh, me trying to be a great athlete was the thing that drove me to try to change the industry. And that was, I didn't realize it until later. And then I'm so thankful for sports and athletics and strength conditioning, because I inadvertently like made my life off that. Like the weight room changed that. And so kind of to ask your question. So like early 2000s racks, you know, prior to that 96, 97, 98, when I was training in college, a power rack was a power rack and you squatted out of it. That's what you did. You squatted and maybe did some shrugs. And then Pops and maybe a couple other companies right at the time started just shoving a 0 to 90 bench into it. And then you're like, wait a second. We were one of the first companies who were like, hey, you could bench, incline, seated press, squat. Like you could do all this stuff right in the rack.
Yeah.
And so we did that a good bit. That was kind of like called a multi-rack or whatever. And then in 2007, so Pop's like 2005 or 6, one day he drilled holes in the side spotters of our rack. And I go, what's that for? He goes, I don't know. It looks cool. And I bet we'll use it for something one day. And it sat for 2 years in the gym. And then I started thinking, I was like, man, that'd be kind of cool if you had 4 posts of a rack with holes in all 4 sides that you could squat from any direction. It was like super clean.
They looked so different.
Yes. And I was like, but you'd have to bolt it to the ground. And I kind of couldn't get past the idea that you'd have to bolt it to the ground. So I didn't do anything about it for a couple of years. And then when CrossFit popped, this is 2007, a girl in our gym was like, hey, I wish we had a place to do pull-ups. And then she showed me a picture of this pull-up rig that was these just steel uprights with these big chin bars between them. And it was all like welded together. I was like, well, that's stupid. Why would you weld it in place? You know, I was like, that's dumb. And I was like, I go, tell me about this CrossFit. She goes, well, you got to have squat stands because everyone squats and jerks, and you have to have pull-up stations, and you have to have dip stations, and that's about it. And I go, what are they currently using? It was like really cheap Chinese crap of each of those variations, or welded together monstrosities of nonsense. I go, well, what happens if they're successful and they got to buy a new place? Do they have to cut the other thing apart and then move it? Like, that doesn't make sense. So I was out at dinner one night and I had a couple of drinks in me. I started thinking, and I asked the waitress for a pen, and I got a bar napkin. I drew uprights and I put all 4 holes in the uprights. I'm like, and I put cross members. I was like, chin cross members, and then supportive cross members. And I was like, if you did this and you moved it instead of 8 feet apart, you moved it 4 feet apart, every upright becomes a rack and every cross member becomes a pull-up bar. And if you had a thing that locked on as a dip bar, you literally handled the entire programming off of like 5 pieces of steel that are standardized. And the war was going off big time then. And I was like, wow, we could ship that overseas to the guys and it's applicable. They could put them together. If they have to move bases, they could bust them apart with 2 wrenches, palletize them again. And I was like, and I told the person I was with, I was like, this will change the strength industry. I was like, I believe in this will work. So I came back into work the next week and I got on AutoCAD and I drew it out. And I was like, holy shit, that would work. And I was like, how did no one see that? But it wasn't welded together. It had to be standardized parts. It had holes, all 4 directions had to work. So we were already kind of thinking the holes don't, but it was just do what with that technology? And then it was like, ding, there it is. And then the modern day rig was born, the modern day rack that then turned racks from being with options, because before that, any custom option that you wanted to have on your rack had to be done at the shop when the person ordered. So I would build stuff for Clemson basketball, and the guy would like, hey, I want these hooks that hold chains and they need to be 7'4" off the ground. Like, okay, good. We weld them on there. The next coach would come in and he's like, I hate these freaking hooks in the way. I go, well, what do you? He goes, they should not be there. They should be at 8 feet. I'm like, oh, gosh, like it's a pain in the ass. Or this guy wants to have metal plates, 45, 35, 25, 10, 5, 2.5. The next guy's like, 35s are stupid. I don't know why we have them. Well, now all the plate storage is configured for 35, so they don't fit. And I was like, man, we got to solve that problem. So finally I was like, screw it. And so I took a piece of paper and I said, this is what a rack has to do. And I listed all the things that a rack needs to do. These are the things that suck about racks. And I listed all the things that suck about racks in the current iteration. These are the things that would be really cool if they could do as growth period. And then I just kind of kept co-witnessing all of this stuff. And what came out of it was the modern base camp rack. Was you could still bench, squat, clean, like all the stuff. You can move all of your plate storage if you ever wanted to. So now that made, instead of options, they're accessories, and it put the power in the hands of the customer.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to have to build custom stuff forever. I want to make customizable stuff by the customer. So like a Picatinny rail on a gun, they could put it wherever they want.
Well, and so somebody can buy the rack, and then they can, as they grow it, they can add to it.
Correct. That was why we call it the base camp rack, is where you start your adventure there. And then from there, you could put all kinds of crazy stuff on it. You could, and we've seen the industry now has created how many iterations of things that lock to the rack, right?
Well, just like the what is the thing that you do? The leverage bar that.
Yeah. The jammer arm or the landmine.
The landmine.
Yeah.
The landmine is like.
The landmine was never intended to be sold.
No.
That was 1999. Pops and I were playing, and I wanted to do a rotational barbell movement that I had learned from another thrower. And he goes, "Oh, we'll just take a universal joint off of the spider row." And he goes, "Drop it in the platform," and we kind of figured it out. And I made a landmine, and it's called the landmine because we kind of jokingly said it builds explosiveness at ground level.
Yeah.
And so I built it, was never planning on selling it. And that was my secret weapon in 2000 to make the Olympic team, because I wanted to do it because I knew I had to bridge the gap between my performance and other people's. A couple other people saw it. They're like, "That's cool. Can I get one?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, I guess." And then we built it. And then now every single,
every gym,
but every manufacturer, everyone makes a landmine.
Yeah.
And they all call it a landmine, which I would give $1 zillion knowing most of them don't know why it's called that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always wondered why it was called that.
That's why it's called that. That's why it's called that. And
I remember the first time somebody told me we're doing landmines, and I was like, "What the fuck is
what is this?" Yeah. That's why it's called landmine.
And I was like, "Why is it called a landmine?" It's just
we would have thought it'd be something cooler if I knew it was going to be popular.
I think it's a cool name.
It's a cool name. I mean, you can't change it now, but
should have tratrademarked it.
Should have probably patented it too.
You probably should have patented it.
Probably should have looked into that one.
But how many pieces of equipment do you have patented?
Maybe 15, 20.
I mean, it's a lot.
It's a lot. But all the really, really, really ones that hyper got copied, I should have, and I just didn't know enough. Like the glute ham roller.
Oh.
I mean, the glute ham roller, literally one of my guy that was working for us, Johnny, he was one of my welders, and he was getting into lifting. He's like, "Hey man, I'm trying to do some more hamstring work." And he goes, "You got anything I could do?" I go, "We don't have anything in the gym." I was like, "Actually, this would be a cool movement." And because I used to take a roller, and I trained a kid that had jacked up his back of his knees. He had a lot of scar tissue. His legs wouldn't straighten. And so I made this roller thing for him, and we would like stack plates on his knees and stretch to kind of break up that scar tissue. And so I would have him doing that movement. And then later we did what we called speed hams. We would do firing knee flexions, but we would use one of those ab rollers. But when the thing swiveled, you get like a weird kick each time.
Yeah.
So I was telling Johnny, I go, "Man, I don't know. I would just get like 2 pieces of steel like this. I'd have those rollerblade wheels on it, and I'd run a V across it. You could hook your heels in." And I literally looked around in the scrap bin at Sorinex, and I pulled those pieces out, and they happened to be that size. I go, "Drill a hole in all 4 corners." I said, "Weld this together." They go, "That'll work for you." I made it for him. Again, wasn't to be sold. We did it with the V on there.
Dude,
like, hey,
Luke Richardson.
Oh yeah.
He loved
it. Yeah. So we were doing it with the hamstring.
And a slide board.
Oh, tons. We were doing that. And I go, "We need to add, like, it'd be cool if we do hand stuff." So I added a bar.
Yeah.
And then we added another bar. And then they just kind of grew from there. And again, it was like, we're not going to patent this. It's too simple. It's too like, everyone makes a glute ham roller.
Yeah.
Now.
They all make it now.
They all make it now. And so like,
I thought that was like yours. So I thought that roller was like your thing. So every time I see one, I think it's a Sorinex.
We invented it.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's because they all look the same now. Like they're all.
Oh yeah. No,
they're not all the same quality.
No,
sure.
Yeah. No, there's some that are pretty crappy, but no, it's weird. Like it's all of a sudden, and it was kind of a trip because you're like, oh my gosh, like all these other companies that aren't in the human performance world, they're all making this thing now. And it's like, okay. And single leg squat, like, the pad that, the adjustable pad for single leg squat, like I was telling before, Terry Tunks at the time, she was a shot putter at Georgia, and she had this weird trapezoidal box she was doing rear leg elevated squats on. She was doing like 265 for sets of 4. And I'm like, oh, that's strong.
That's strong as shit.
Strong as shit. So I went home after that weekend where I'd done some work in Georgia. I competed at Georgia. I stayed over an extra day. I trained with all the throwers down there, and I went back home. You learn a couple things when you're in the weight room. Come back home, like, man, I need to have something that could do that. Put my foot on a bench. It was wiggling too much. And I go, hold on, I'm not trying to make a stability exercise. I'm trying to make an overload exercise. Like, how am I going to do that? So went to the back, got a pad, built 2 T's, put it together, hooked my dorsiflex my foot over it. I was like, oh shit, this is pretty stable. Like I could do this. Again, wasn't meant to sell anyone. Yeah. It was because I wanted to be stronger than Terry because I was like, how the heck she could do that much weight? We did it. A couple people like, hey, I want one of those. And who doesn't make a single leg Bulgarian squat piece now?
Yeah. It's every rack.
Every rack has one. Then when we did the base camp rack, that was the final column of what are other cool things that you should be able to do on a rack. Yeah. And so I took all of our products that were freestanding, standalone, our box squat, our landmine, our the single leg squat, and then I created products that could be interlocked into the rack, so you don't have to pay for a secondary piece, and then they would store. So that's where,
and you save space.
Yeah, save space. That's where the pads came in. The utility pads that lock into a rack. That's all that was for, because I wanted to make a single leg squat that I didn't have to store somewhere. And
those things are so crucial.
Crucial, right? You look at them now, you're like, oh, they're everywhere. They're on every rack.
Yeah.
Or a
somebody
landmine.
Had to think of it.
Yeah. And so put a landmine. Why not put it on the rack? And then it was the utility seat that drops across the spotter bars. Well, that was so we didn't have to use a box jump, a box squat, or a step up, because all 3 were different products. Yeah. It's like, what if you could do one product that just uses the strength of the rack, and now you could pin it in different places. So now it's like indexable. So I know every day when I do a box squat, it's on 11 this way and 13 this way, and I could replicate it, but I could also adjust it if I'm an athlete, or I could
try to jump higher.
Yeah, I could always tweak it. So like when that kind of door opened up, then I got super excited, because like, holy crap, like we can make a system that almost is every one of our products into this one system. And it makes my job easier, because then I just have to sell accessories, or people could upgrade or downgrade as much as they want. And then it would be like, I would think that was kind of the first time like a rack system was ever created.
Yeah.
And, and actually the saddest part of it is I dumped my life savings in trying to patent it. And, like one little thing tweaked, I just didn't know what I was doing, and I basically, I was trying to do it. I ran out of money, couldn't put any more money towards it. But I look back now, and I've had so many people ask me, they're like, dude, I would have totally funded that thing. I was like, I didn't know. We were struggling, and like, but I look now, I'm like, oh my gosh, if every rack and rig was a Sorinex. Derek.
You would have flown here private.
Yeah, I would have been significantly different. I had shoes with goldfish in them when I walked. But I haven't missed meals in a while.
No, you're doing just fine. And your brand is skyrocketing.
Oh, I appreciate it.
And so when you were like coming up with these ideas, what was your dad just like all on board with it?
No.
Did you have to argue a lot?
Oh, a lot.
No, I bet.
A lot. Because he's a really brilliant designer. And a lot of times we'd be on the same page, and some things were like super obvious to both of us. Some things he did were super obvious to him and I wasn't getting. And then some things to me, because of what I was trying to attempt to do in lifting, because of where he was a 55, 60-year-old man, and I'm a guy that's trying to throw real for so we were interested in different things.
Yeah.
So I got the base camp and the first rig made, and they got to the shop, both of them the first day, and he hated both of them.
Oh.
And so and I think it was so different than everything else that was in the industry. Like his brain wasn't open. Like it was just a shock
to see all those holes.
Yeah. Because we would show them the first couple of years, people were like, I hate them. I go, why do you hate them? They go, all the holes, everything looks cheap. I go, well, I assure you it is more expensive to put the holes in there. Like if we don't get a price break because there's less, it just looks cheap. And I would have to talk to customers. I go, I understand aesthetically you don't like it. I said, but please help me understand where you think it has less options or less value in your training center. I said, if you could tell me that, I'll agree with you. I said, but let's just be men here. You tell me where it would be better to have less options. And they would go, well, they'd grumble for a while, and I just don't like it. I go, well, great. Like, that's not a great, and you have to be kind of gingerly when you're talking to customers.
Yeah.
But eventually it was kind of interesting. I'd have guys come back years later and like, I hated it. Didn't look good. I just had to get used to it. It's the best way to train. You're right. I mean, it is. It is. I don't like it, but I'm just used to it now. I'm like, okay, cool. It's fine.
Yeah,
it's not
because it's so super functional.
Again, don't, if you could do 3 things with this and you could do 20 things with this, please tell me how the 3 is better. I've yet to. It's not. And I get it. I don't love the look of 1 million holes in it. If someone figured out how to do it without any holes, freaking great. That was just the best way I figured out how to do it.
Well, because like when I was in college at Cincinnati, we had those hammer strength ones.
Sure.
So they were all like, it was like the one, you can only put things in the one direction.
Correct.
And
that was
you can move it up and down. Now is it.
And that was the state of the art. And it was good. It could bench, squat, incline, like you could do
the pull-up bars and
sure. And it's fine. They make good equipment. It was just fine.
Yeah, it was fine.
It was fine.
But then when I came to Denver and we have Sorinex equipment, right? And I'm like, wait a minute, they got fucking pull down machines attached to these things.
Those are dope.
I was like, this thing's fucking awesome.
Yeah. All your pads.
I was like, and what is this? A jammer? What is a jammer?
Yeah.
Dude, those fucking jammers.
So cool.
I'm telling you, like when it comes to working like explosion for offense and defensive line coming off the ball.
Oh yeah.
Nothing's better.
Right.
Rotational power. Nothing's better.
Yeah.
There's nothing better because you have to move it fast, but then you have to control it.
Yes.
And then you have to control it back down. And then it's like, boom.
And the best part,
double hand them, and you can change your grips with the way the weight's rounded. Like, cause you always want to gauge thumbs up.
Right.
Right.
Okay. Yep.
So you're not stuck in like this.
Yep.
Like straight here. Right. You're like,
you're right about there. Right. Yeah.
And you just, and that feeling of,
even the round we made because we wanted 2 handles so you could go high and low, but then the round allowed for different hand spaces, but also the handles are that space because of what I was trying to accomplish athletically, but it's the little part of the round I liked because big dudes sliding between them, it didn't catch on their shirt.
Yeah.
Like the angular style, we fooled with that. But every time you go through it, hooks your pants and hooks.
Yeah.
And we had to look at it and go, hey, I need really big athletes. Their changeovers in the weight room have to be fast. They have to be go in and out.
Yeah, we got 4 guys on each rack. Like, let's go.
And I can't have someone hit a sharp point and get cut or hook their shirt. And so like, that's the stuff that I don't think people take into account when they're really designing equipment. Like, what's it going to really look like at scale with big, strong athletes moving fast with quick turnovers?
Yeah.
Like anything works at your house with one guy spotting you and you're not being stupid. But like, what happens when athletes are stupid and they do dumb things and they're super strong or they're super violent with things and like
they break shit.
It breaks shit, right? And so when you try to like design it to that, like that's where I think going back to, I inadvertently learned by being in a college weight room and training with some of the greatest strength athletes. You just kind of like go, okay, this is what's going to happen. It doesn't work on paper, but this is in reality what's going to happen. And I think that's been a competitive advantage.
I can't express, like anybody that's listening, like I've used every kind of equipment there is. All right. Like I've used it all. I've trained all over the country in different gyms and different weight room structures. Like I remember when Lauren finally put Sorinex equipment into his gym here, I was like, thank God that you actually put good equipment in here. Cause like when he first started, he was just in like this little room and I was in there, like I'm cleaning like 440 pounds and like, I feel like it's going to go through the floor, and
right. And that's the thing that most companies don't take into account, that there are people that could do that.
Yeah. They don't think about that. They're like, oh, well, we just got to drop 135 pounds. No big deal. And I'm like, no, I'm going to be picking up and setting down, 500-600 pounds. Like,
yes. Yes, a lot.
I also need your trap bar to be able to hold 7 plates on each side. Okay.
Because some people are built like that.
Yeah. Because that's what we're lifting. You know, we're going to be lifting heavy in here. And that's just me. Go to like a Brian Shaw, right? Like what gym can he walk in and actually lift in, or Thor?
Those people are so, yes.
They're like, they're superhuman.
Yes.
You know, like they're not human.
Right. Right. And if you build to the average person, I had to come to the realization, people will get like, oh, your stuff's too big. It's too overbuilt. It's too expensive. I go, I'm not building for the average person. No. I'm just not. No. Like, we've chosen to be the go-to guys for the go-to guys.
Yeah.
The people that could afford anything but to lose.
Yeah.
That's who we're targeting. If you're one of those guys, congratulations. If you're not, that's fine too.
Yeah. You're geared towards people that are trying to be the best.
Yes.
At what they're doing.
Yes. And usually they're freaky.
Yeah. And then, so you're dealing with people that are moving. You're dealing with somebody that might drop 600 pounds off their back and need a safety bar to catch it.
They probably will.
Yeah. Because it's going to happen. Because if you're training hard, you're going to train to failure.
That's right. And that's why Pops invented the safety straps. And that was another one that you see everyone uses. Yeah. And he fooled with that for a few years. And I wasn't fully down with that when he did. That's a perfect example. It wasn't as obvious to me. He was out there tinkering with it, messing with it. And I go, what's the point? And he goes, well, I just think it'll help the bar not get bent. And then the first day I tried it, I realized if you're off a little bit and your plates go down, you know, sometimes they hit that safety bar and it goes ding and just jumps up. It's like, oh, it hits the safety strap and it kind of moves out of the way.
And when I'm bench pressing,
yes,
my elbows hit those bars.
Yes, correct.
Like when I'm coming down, I'm wide. So like when I come down, my elbows will hit those bars. And so I can't have those safety bars.
Correct. And what we found we're benching, because they sag a little bit in the strap. If you move the strap up a little higher by your face, that when you're benching, you could still achieve full range of motion, but you can never hit your face or your throat.
Yeah.
So it's safe. Like, hold on a second. Like we could help people to not ever get hurt in the gym again, like dead. It's like, yes, let's do that. And so when Pops came up with it, his start with the holes on the side.
And if anybody thinks that doesn't happen,
shit.
Let me tell you something. We had to do these stupid. I had to film my workouts during COVID with the Ravens. When I first signed with them, they're like, you have to film all your workouts and we have to be on the Zoom call. And I'm like, okay,
yeah, cool.
So we're like, I'm in my home gym in here doing incline bench press with like, you know, I got like 275 on there and we're doing like burnout sets. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like down on a 3 count, quarter rep, down all the way up for sets of 8 to 12. And I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I'm like, my wife I'm told her, I was like, hey, I need you to just come down here and spot me.
Right.
She couldn't get the weight off of me.
Yeah.
Like I got stuck under that weight. And if I would have been by myself, I would have been screwed.
You're screwed. Yeah.
I've been totally screwed. So it happens, man. Like it happens. So if
there's
you're training by yourself, like a lot of people don't have, you know, Ronnie Coleman always says, you know, the only person you can count on is you when it comes to training. Cause like having a training buddy is great and everything, but like you gotta have something to catch the bar if you can't.
Yeah, that can't be a part of the plan to always have someone.
And how am I supposed to push myself if I can't push myself to failure?
Right.
I have to be able to push myself to failure. And I'm not gonna do that if I think that I'm gonna drop, you know, 315 pounds on my face.
No, exactly. Or I've seen guys, you know, in college football, you know, with a spot, you know, they push up, they suicide grip, bar falls. Ain't nobody catching that bar as fast as it could fall.
Nope.
It always hits once.
Always.
You know, and you go 315 pound hammer from 1.5 feet up. No bueno.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where it's just
I
like. I
always did that suicide grip.
Yeah. But you're like, hey man, just use the strap, set them up a little bit high and you don't get hurt. What do we talk? It's like a seatbelt. Like it's not that hard.
Yeah.
You put the seatbelt on. You won't fly through the windshield. Problem solved.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's.
And it hits those straps and it doesn't bounce off them.
Yeah. And it's not going to bend the bar as easily and stuff. But that was just a smart real, idea. Pops was pretty sharp.
So you guys did butt heads a lot though.
Yeah. I mean, we would butt heads a little bit, but there was a lot of times it was just two big alpha bulls that just want to be right.
Right.
And sometimes it was just want to be right. They want their idea to be the idea that was right. And then when everyone calms down and you start going, oh, well, I do like that. And what if we did that? You start working together. It would usually be like a 10-minute, and then we'd like, all right, well, what if this happened? Okay, well, no, that's a good idea. Like we could do that. And then everyone lowers their guard And then we worked together for another 3 hours, and then it's awesome.
Yeah.
And that was super fun. And then when you start realizing that that's the path it generally takes, and you're like, okay,
you know how to navigate it.
You know how to navigate it. And we never were unable to get there.
Yeah. That's good.
Later in our career, I was just much more active, and he really trusted what I did and whatever. But he would always ask questions, but he would always come up with the craziest possibilities for someone to get hurt. And that was we always joked, like that was him shooting holes in it. He's like, yeah, but what if someone did? And he would come up with the most ridiculous things that someone would do. But when I realized all it did is kept us sharp.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you're like, no one would ever do it. And then he would always go, people are stupid. And he would just walk off. And then you go, okay.
He's right.
He's right. And then, okay, let's just say someone did do that. And then you engineer around it. And you're like, he made us better.
Yeah.
He pushed a little bit further and made it 5% better, because even in the weird case that would never, ever, ever happen, we solved it. And then then it opened up something else. You're like, oh, well, this we should fix too. And this, and then you start playing with it. And I think that's so needed when you're the top guy, is to have people that push back.
Yeah.
And I used to have a guy, Nelson, I called him my no man. And his job, he was our COO. His job was to say no to me. And so I'd come in, I'm like, hey, I want to do . And he would always kind of do it. And finally I was like, what the heck? And he's like, I do it to keep you sharp.
Yeah.
He goes, I know everyone's going to say yes to you because you're the guy. He goes, he goes, I'm not afraid of you. He goes, and I don't need this job. He goes, I'm going to say no to you. He goes, I might agree with you, but I won't say no just to make sure you are fully in it. And then we get to bat the idea around and you convince me of it. And he goes, and then it just makes you sharper. And
everybody, if you had just a whole room full of yes men, you're never going to be
screwed.
You're screwed.
You're screwed.
And I lived that way for a long time, where I just had people around me telling me how great I was all the time. And then I got married. And I got humbled.
It's valuable to have a no man there. So yeah, my wife, she's awesome in that. And I have a couple guys that I empower to do that often. I push on them. I'm like, hey man, if every time I give you an idea, you say it's the best idea ever, or you just go and do it, I'll stop asking you.
Yeah.
Because you are now not of value to me. Because if it's the same thing I would have thought, then why would I even tell you? I would have just done it.
Right. Because that's part of being a great leader, is challenging the people that are around you. You challenge them to challenge you back. It's like,
correct. And
let's bounce ideas off each other and let's come up with a better plan.
Yep. And you have to have some horses that'll do it.
Yeah. And a lot of people are just kind of scared.
Of course.
That's why putting a good team together is so difficult.
You almost have to have a couple people in there that are almost a loose cannon.
What is your turnover rate?
During COVID, it was a lot.
Really?
Yeah. We don't turn over that many anymore. We're trying to really kind of change a little bit of the hiring practices. And when we were growing fast, we just needed people.
Yeah.
So they would come in and, some of them were good, some were bad, whatever. And now we're trying to some of the people that self-select out. All right, we'll continue to maybe even not replace them, just invest in the guys that we know are killers.
Yeah.
And just more quality over quantity.
Yeah. I think that's a good business plan for sure. Hey everybody, this episode is brought to you by Black Buffalo. Black Buffalo's nicotine pouches do not contain tobacco leaf or stem. What they do contain is a ton of flavor, and they're packed with pharmaceutical grade nicotine. The magic of Black Buffalo is they discovered a way to make cured edible green leaves behave like the texture of tobacco. And they add food grade ingredients for industry classic flavors. You're in good company if you roam with the Black Buffalo herd. The business was built by dippers with decades of smokeless tobacco use. They manufacture their tobacco alternatives with respect for those products that came before them. Bold flavors, full pouches, metal lids, and a brand that stands for something: America. Their products are also proudly endorsed by brand ambassadors such as MMA Hall of Famer Cowboy Cerrone, NASCAR champion Brian Blaney, rising country star Larry Fleet, and Rob O'Neill, former U.S. Navy SEAL. So if you're 21 and older and you consume nicotine or tobacco and you want to join the Black Buffalo herd, head over to blackbuffalo.com to learn more. You can order nicotine pouches online, and they ship directly to most states. Or you can check out their store Purchase pouches at thousands of retail locations around the country. Black Buffalo, an American brand, pouches worth respect. I want to talk about how you've implemented, how you've taken Sorinex, like this, because I think what you saw was how like the outdoor industry and then like the fitness industry kind of like,
yeah,
there's like this meshing that's happening.
Yeah. And I think other individuals had done it. I don't think maybe any brands had done it.
Right.
But I started kind of, as I got out of athletics as much, I started getting back to my original love of the outdoors and hunting more and more, and met a couple people that kind of opened up some doors for me about like kind of a more Western hunting and things like that. One of them was Kip Fulks.
Love Kip.
Kip's awesome. And, the Rivets and a couple other people like just kind of opened up some more sides of that. I just wasn't super familiar. I'd been elk hunting like once, out 20 something years ago in Wyoming. Those are all dreams and aspirations I'd had. So I started hanging out with more folks like that. And Kip actually kind of got me back into archery. I was shooting archery 25 years ago, but was really I did a little bit of bow hunting here and there, but so anyway, that whole kind of community I was kind of reintroduced to, and I would watch, and I noticed a lot of those people in the outdoor world were lifting weights and strength and conditioning, was starting to trend harder in that, with the Cameron Haynes, obviously, he was, one of the biggest proponents of that. And so there's him and some other guys and gals were doing that. But what I saw was, I just didn't think that anyone was doing it well.
Yeah.
and I would say, optimally, I guess is a better term.
Yeah.
And that was just because I came from a world of high-end human performance. So bro lifting and CrossFit with camo on wasn't really, in my opinion, necessarily doing it. It was just like, okay, well, that's cool, but like,
where's the functionality?
Yeah. And that was where I just saw it as like, let's break it down. Let's understand what we're attempting to accomplish. And so I thought that maybe we could offer something to that world, but I was also interested in that world because that's kind of was my dream world from what the hunting space. But then I was also realizing that all my friends on the other side that were strength conditioning enthusiasts or athletes, we were all kind of starting to age out of our competitive years. And I had jumped into the hunting world more so kind of more actively than I had been before. And then I realized some of my friends, they didn't have anything or they wanted that next challenge. They still had some lead in the pencil, still had some muscle, but they're like, what do I do with this? What do I train for anymore? I'm not trying to throw a hammer far or be a good football player or and so I saw it as a dual value proposition. So for all my strength conditioning and athletic friends, introducing them to the hunting world, and then all the all the hunters and outdoor people, it's like, gosh, if I could introduce them to the hitters in the strength conditioning space, this will be a double valuable for everyone involved. And if Sorinex could fit into there at some place, that's fine. But even if it doesn't, that's fine too. And it kind of just grew organically. And then Sorinex Outdoors was just really a special interest group. It was like the Venn diagram, if you're like strength and conditioning, if you like the outdoors, Sorinex Outdoors is probably for you, because that as stupid as it sounds, right? Because that's who we are. We enjoy, we're going to train hard. We're going to train with purpose. And, maybe we still do some of those sports, but during the fall or whatever, we're going to go do hard crap outside. Mm-hmm. And, that's really where it came from. And so, you're talking about Winter Strong and Summer Strong. So Summer Strong was the event that we started as my dad's birthday party 18 years ago. And I said, what do you want to do for your birthday, Pops? He was like, I don't know, let's just open up the gym and invite a bunch of people over, maybe cook a pig, grab a keg, we'll lift weights, we'll have some beers and some barbecue at the end of the day, and like, it'll be fun. I'm like, all right, cool. That was the whole thing. There was no planning. There was like 5 days beforehand we told people. Some people showed up and something happened almost immediately. And Josh Hankin, who was a sandbag, he was a strength coach, but he was like one of the early guys on the sandbag world. And he showed up the first day, and we were a bunch of dudes, just guys and gals showed up at the gym. Like, I don't know, what are we going to do? We're walking around. Well, he starts training with a sandbag and starts teaching a power lifter, an Olympic lifter, and a strongman how to do sandbag training. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. It's cool he's sharing his gift. And then an hour later, an Olympic lift, they started snatching, and he was teaching the sandbag guy, and he was also teaching the power lifter how to snatch. They were showing him different snatch balance drills. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. They started getting heavier in weight, and all of a sudden they started squatting. Well, the power lifter starts helping the Olympic lifter and started helping the sandbag guy. And then later, they're all walking a yoke outside with the strongman training. And I was like, wait a second. So all these different modalities are helping each other. There's no ego involved. They don't have to be the guy, because they're not a power lifter isn't competing against an Olympic weightlifter. They actually want each other to be better.
Yeah.
And I saw this real neat thing happen super organically within the first half of the day. And I was like, oh, this was great. And then we, killed a keg, ate a pig. Everyone had a great time. We hung out that afternoon. We did the sundown throwdown. We went out in my throwing field. I was still throwing Highland games at the time. And we had discuses, shots, Highland games implement. Everyone got to throw stuff. We were throwing kegs. We were having a ball. I was like, man, that was awesome. We should do that again.
Yeah.
And so the next year we did it. And, and a buddy of mine, he had told me, he was like, yeah, he goes, I saw this t-shirt one time that just said summer strong, summer weak. And it was kind of like a double entendre. And I was like, summer strong. That's a cool sound to it. And a double entendre, like it's in the summer, but like you're also kind of putting it out there, like summer strong, some not so much.
Yeah.
And so we called the second year, we called it Summer Strong, and it became Summer Strong 2 immediately, because the first year I guess was Summer Strong inadvertently. And we did it again, and then it just kind of went, like for the first 3 or 4 years, like no planning. People would show up, but then people started to realize, like, I'm going to show up and want to teach something. And people started showing, and then we started scheduling people. Hey, will you talk about, so yeah, sure, I'll do it. And no one would ever take a dime for doing it. They was like, no, I'll just show up and do it. Like, I love doing this. This is great. I love being around this. And then, years and years, like Summer Strong 7, there's 400 or 500 people there. You got Jan and Terry Todd are there. You like all these people are starting to come in and really pour into the community. And then a couple military, some veterans start showing up, and they start telling a story and telling stories about human performance training. And, this was Summer Strong 6 or 7, and we're on 18 now. So it was 12 years ago. And guys are talking about, hyperbaric chambers and sensory deprivation tanks, and like all this human performance stuff that they were doing at different commands. And, it's like really interesting stuff you weren't hearing about.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of when the whole thing changed, that it almost started turning into like some TED Talks kind of thing. And bless you.
Thank you.
And, you give it 2 or 3 more years, and all of a sudden, people say, what is Summer Strong? I go, it's a seminar, convention, competition, TED Talk, group therapy, family reunion.
Yeah.
Birthday party. Kinda. It's like, if you're in any of those things, like, just show up, because it's worth it. It'll be amazing. And it's intentionally unlike any other strength conditioning thing. Like, it was intentional. I don't want to have, everyone has egos in this thing. Everyone, we're in it. That's part of it, right? But the goal was, years ago for me, I decided I wanted to attempt to change the strength and conditioning world from the inside, or the bro culture part of it. Like, I thought the strength and conditioning could be better than that. And that was, I figured that bringing people from different walks of life together was always a better plan than going back to the same well. Mm-hmm. You want to have a really time, get a whole bunch of Olympic lifters in a room.
Yeah.
Like, everyone's going to talk about Olympic lifting. They're going to bitch at everyone else about they're not doing it the right way, and everyone else is stupid. And I don't mean just that for Olympic lifters. If you want to use power lifters in the same thing, and the same thing will happen.
Yeah.
You do it in football players, the same thing would probably happen. And so I started seeing, I was like, man, when you have a homogeneous group of people, it sucks. It just sucks. Everyone's either telling each other how great they are and everyone else is stupid, You know, you hear like the old, I think even Greg Glassman said it one time, which I thought was great. He's like, everyone's talking about a dick measuring contest, but no one's dropped their pants and I don't see a tape measure. like if we're going to do it, let's do it. If not, stop talking about it.
Yeah.
And so what I started realizing, like if you pull people from all different walks of life that are all high performers, there's a mutual respect, because a guy that's a Navy SEAL is not competing against a guy that won an Olympic gold medal in the shot put. They have nothing in common except they have everything in common. And there's a mutual respect because this guy never tried to do that. That guy never tried to do that. And they couldn't do each other's thing, but there's things they could learn. And then you'd see those guys gravitating to each other and they're like, hey, and they'd be talking shop and they'd be super respectful to each other. And there was never, hey, I'm leaning in and listening because I'm not trying to talk over you to tell you how great I am. You're doing something totally different than me. And it's rad.
Yeah.
And that was when we figured out that is the recipe. It was like, oh my gosh, we're tapping into something, because everything starts working then, you know?
Yeah.
And I'll start off every year. I say, listen, we've done this 17 years. We've never had a physical altercation or a yelling match. And we've had up to 700 people here. We have a room full of alphas. I'm telling you now, if you think you're the coolest guy in the room, you're not.
Yeah.
Just telling you right now. Okay, let's move past that. Don't have an ego. If you can't be an adult and if you have to be that guy that ruffles feathers or makes it about you or makes it about having to intimidate someone, here's your chance. Go ahead and bounce.
Yeah.
But if you choose to stay and be an adult and being a good citizen of this event, I'd love to have you. And it's awesome. Like it's always, I mean, you have some freaking killers in there too. Like you have some straight dogs, you know, if it ever was a fight, it would be one for the ages, because it would be incredible. Right. But it's cool. Summer Strong, Winter Strong, everyone's always been cool with each other, but we try to set the stage of like, hey,
well, how did you set up? How did Winter Strong start?
All right. So we were doing Summer Strong. I think we were year 10. And I have a little text group of some of my inner squad people that show up to Summer Strong every year. They're like, man, I miss you guys. Like, gosh, it sucks that we only get to be together once a year. And they go, we got to do it again. We got to do Winter Strong. Like, let's just do it a second time. And I'm like, yeah, I want to see everyone, but like, it can't be the same thing. Right.
Yeah.
And that was when I was really kind of like starting to hit in the outdoor space more. And we had just bought our farm, and I was like, you know what? It's like, let's do it, but I'm going to switch the script on everybody. And so I said, we're going to do Winter Strong. It was like, yay. And I was like, here's the thing. It's not at HQ. It's at my farm. It's an immersion event. It's all camping, and you're going to be outside for 3 days or 2 days, whatever it was at the time. It's going to be all the strength conditioning stuff and the nutrition stuff, but it's also going to be shooting, rifle, pistol, archery, primitive skills, like all this other stuff. And everyone was like, huh? And we did it. And we started same, about 35 people showed up, and then we were knife making, and then everyone just kept adding in. And that was what Summer Strong kept being. We've never paid a presenter ever at Summer Strong. And I don't say this like to be cheap. I say it to commend those people who have donated their time.
It's a community.
It's a community. They want to bring their best. It's like, we're doing a potluck dinner. I'm not going to mail it in and bring a freaking bullshit corn dip.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, all right, I'm going to figure out what I'm going to make, and I'm going to come hot, because I want everyone going, that is the coolest thing that I've ever eaten. That was amazing. Who brought this? Who brought this over here? Like, and most of the presenters see it like that. They're like, here's my chance to like show out to my community and show them what I could bring as my best.
Yeah.
And I'm going to donate that to this community.
That's pretty cool.
When people do that, it is so cool. And so it's been awesome. In 18 years, we never had someone take a dime.
That's
like,
awesome.
Right? Nope. I want to show up. I want to do it.
You know, you created something special.
It's cool. So we moved it on to Winter Strong, and yeah, it's grown too. And so people come and they push and they do hard stuff, and then they get to speak with other people. You know, you get a college strength coach that's never slept outside, and he's sitting there talking to Danny Bolton or someone else that is, you know, half feral, and it's blowing their mind back and forth. But, you know, this guy knows nothing about strength conditioning. So they're sitting around the fire all night going, what, you know, and then I'm watching on social media, oh, they're meeting up and doing stuff together, because now they're building that bond because there's a mutual value. So for me, my payment is like, if I could see my friends working together,
It's a network.
And if I could be helpful to strengthen their network or their life, like we win.
Yeah.
We win. We lose money on Summer Strong and Winter Strong every year.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's fine. It's fine.
Sure, it costs money.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. But if that's what we leave the world with, which 700 and 200, 300, so 1,000 people have a better life because we're doing it and they're elevating their game. Perfect.
Good on you, brother.
Thanks.
Well, listen, man, we've gone for
a long time,
2 hours now. So I'm going to wrap this up.
Yeah.
But man, I really appreciate the time. I appreciate the workout. That was an awesome workout, man. And for a guy that's going on 50 years old, I'm just like super impressed.
Thanks, man.
I hope that I'm able to move like that when I'm 50.
Oh, man, I appreciate you pushing because I haven't gone there in a while.
It was fun.
You're a stud, dude. And it's like you're a terrifyingly large, strong human. But it was really, really fun to get to spend the day with you. And the workout, like you've revitalized me of how I want to train right now because I want to come back and hit another leg day with you if I can make it to my car.
Let's do it, man. Let's make it happen.
Thanks again for having me.
Yeah, thanks, Bert. I appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, buddy.
All right. Thanks for listening to the Wolfe Untamed podcast. Be sure to check me out on Instagram, DerekWolfe_95. Check out the Wolfe Untamed podcast on YouTube. You can listen on all the other platforms, as well as DerekWolfe.com.